Chapter 61. Killing the Gods, the Tao of Heaven takes action, one more. What is Boss Suzy doing? Seeing Suzy take out a bronze sign, someone couldn't help asking curiously. I don't know. Anyway, if any weird things happen to Mr. Suzy, I won't feel anything strange. I have learned lip language. Big brother said, he wants to kill God. Suddenly, a student said tremblingly. Wen Yan. The square of Qingyan Middle School is quiet. People stared at Suzy in the video with wide eyes. What? Killing God? Boss Suzy wants to kill God? Are you kidding me? If it is said that the opposite is the lower God, I will reluctantly believe it, but the opposite is the upper God. Shouldn't Mr. Suzy try to find a way to escape now? Everyone was shocked by the behavior of 507, Suzy. In this age of national lords, mortals kill gods in the vast history of mankind. Happens naturally, but that's just the indigenous gods in the cosmic sea. The kind of indigenous gods with little power, and some even couldn't beat the Lord's arms. But who is Suzy facing? That is the overlord of the universe sea, the upper god of the Zerg race. The two are not on the same level at all, are they? Now Suzy says, he wants to kill a Zerg high god. Everyone thought this was a ridiculous joke, like an ant saying it wanted to kill an elephant. Make them feel ridiculous. Void. This kid can't beat his brain. Lu Ruyan looked at Suzy's appearance in the mirror, wishing to slap him on the back of the head. Now the upper god can't hit you. If you don't hurry up and run, why are you still in the ink? She really wanted to grab Suzy's ear. Let him see clearly. That is the upper god. Not a cat or a dog. Hee. Suzy is so awesome, you can beat the nasty bugs. Xiao Qingluan waved her small fist and cheered for Suzy from a distance. That's how confident you are. Snapped. There was another melon collapse on the back of the head, and Qingqing hugged his head and moaned. You little girl dare to talk nonsense again, be careful that I will hang you up and beat you. Willow fluttering head full of black lines. What time is it? Still booing here. Either she, Lu Piao, was slack at ordinary times, or the little girl thought she couldn't lift a knife anymore. What if? I think Suzy is very confident. Xiao Wanqing was dissatisfied. She pouted and retorted. She just supports Suzy unconditionally. No. Lu Piao glanced at Lu Ruyan, and the words came to her lips, but she didn't say them. But in my heart I said, how can there be so many contingencies, if there are contingencies? So what if both of you sisters marry him? The future of such people is limitless. Xiao Wanqing remained silent, but she knew Suzy. He never fought unprepared. He is not an arrogant person, let alone a fool. So Suzy must have confidence. But she doesn't know what Suzy's confidence is. Until she saw Suzy lift up the bronze token in his hand. She saw the two ancient seal characters engraved on it. She learned, so she knew. Those two words are Godfall. Human race, do you think you want to fight me with a token? Ha, this is the biggest joke I've ever heard. Nasta laughed wildly, and the sound shattered an unknown number of planets. Although he didn't know what method was used by the ant-like human race on the opposite side, so that even he couldn't attack Suzy half a point. But he found, the human race can't move half a point. He has enough patience to wait. As for the quaint token in Suzy's hand, he doesn't care at all. I have never heard that one piece and two rows can fight against a high god. Hey, the joke is not a joke, you will know later. Suzy sneered. Hart said, laugh, when you cry later. After all, a message appeared in front of Suzy. Do you use Godfall? Whether? Yes. Suzy nodded without hesitation. After all, the token turned into a faint fluorescent light and dissipated in Suzy's hand. See tokens dissipate. For some reason, Nasta suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart. But this premonition was only fleeting, and he couldn't explain it clearly. Just take it as an illusion. Blue Star has a will. All mankind knows, but Blue Star's will has been sleeping all year round. Only when the momentum of the human race is in turmoil and facing a huge turning point will they wake up. The tone said that there are 10 supreme beings in the human race. Rather 11, now that the human race has developed for hundreds of millions of years. The strength of Blue Star's will has already surpassed everything and reached the top. Even stronger than the average supreme. No one has seen Blue Star's will shot. It is said that everyone who saw it died. Suddenly, Blue Star's top 10 supremes Chi-Chi opened their eyes and looked towards the sky. Above the sky, a huge golden pupil gradually condenses, its 0.6 seems to cover the entire sky. The golden eyes were majestic and sacred, but without the slightest emotion. Violet gold thunderbolts flickered in his eyes, possessing a prestige of destroying heaven and earth. Blue Star's will has awakened. Why did you wake up at this time? Could it be that our human race is facing a huge disaster? Who awakened Blue Star's will? One by one the Supreme was awakened, and one by one spiritual thoughts collided and rubbed in the air, but they didn't get any useful information. No one knows why Blue Star's will suddenly awakened. But the next moment, a beam of light composed of countless world-destroying thunderclaps emitted from those eyes. In an instant, the Blue Star space was broken. Blast into unknown territory. Chapter 62. There is no way to go to heaven, no way to go to earth, 2 more. Wrong. In the endless void, Nasta comes from the vigilance deep in the soul. Reminds him of a long-lost feeling. That was the sense of crisis of death that existed thousands of years ago before becoming a god. This feeling made his hair stand on his head, and his mind was disturbed. Human race, what is your sign? Only then did Nasta look at the human lord standing in the void, who seemed to be determined to eat him. He suddenly remembered the sign in the hands of the human lord, and immediately asked Suzy. You guess. Suzy smiled, revealing a mouthful of snow-white teeth. I guess your sister. Nasta wanted to grab him, but immediately remembered that his attack was useless. Suddenly, the uneasiness in Nasta's heart was even stronger. He can't wait any longer. He felt that he might have been tricked by that bitch Irina this time. Where is this a human lord who has just awakened? That is to say, it was disguised by a god king, and he believed 06. Irina, I feel something is wrong, I have to go. You can complete this task by yourself. Nasta couldn't ignore the uneasiness in his heart. Just in case, he wants to evacuate and return to the Zerg. In deep space, Irina is fighting Wu Qingying. Every time the two fight, countless worlds will be born and died around them. Suddenly received a message from Nasta. Irina was so angry in her heart, but she didn't notice it for a while. She was slashed in the chest by Wu Qingying's sword. Irina was hit hard in an instant. Puff. Irina spat out a mouthful of blood, and distanced herself from Wu Qingying. Trash. A mortal can't kill it, I've never seen such a trash Zerg. Now it's even more about running away. Irina spit out a mouthful of blood again angrily. Nasta, if you dare to leave, I will definitely report to the Zerg to sue you for running away. Irina sent a message to Nasta, with threats in her words. Nasta received a message from Irina. His face struggled a bit. But the increasingly intense sense of crisis made him dare not stay any longer. Seeing this scene, Irina was furious, but she was entangled by Wu Qingying and couldn't stop her. Hey, as expected of the Zerg race, they are so greedy for life and afraid of death. Wu Qingying mocked with a sneer. Zerg is this virtue. Shameless and cowardly. Nowadays, facing a rookie lord of their human race, they didn't dare to fight openly. If Nasta knew Wu Qingying's thoughts, he would definitely be laughed at. Will the new lord of your family take the resurrection props to participate in the trial? Can the new lord of your family invalidate the attack of the upper gods? The new lord of your family can make him feel the crisis of life and death that he has not encountered in tens of millions of years. Nasta even suspects this is a bureau arranged by the human race against him. And that human lord was just a bait. Behind him was the top power of the human race, and in an inexplicable way, he shot for him and resisted his attack. Thinking about it this way, the Nasta crisis is even worse. Absolutely so. Even Irina has been judged. Otherwise, how could she let me, a high god, personally deal with a new lord? Nasta suddenly panicked, without the slightest hesitation. Immediately turned around and ran desperately towards the Zerg territory. This scene, all the people watching the battlefield could not help being silent. High god is gone. Why is the upper god running away? And Suzy was unharmed. Is there something wrong with that? Some people even suspected that it was a dream, and slapped themselves in the face twice. It turned out to be true. Lu Ruyan, Xiao Wanqing, and Lu Piaopiao looked at the Zerg giant leaving at the speed of light, not knowing what happened for a while. Look, let me just tell you, Mom, your son-in-law is an auspicious man, so how could he die so early? No, even the superior Shendu has to run away. This scene made Xiao Qingluan excited, and his waist was thin. What son-in-law? Lu Ruyan suddenly heard something and asked with a smile. That's right, me and my sister. Before Xiao Qingluan finished speaking, Lu Piaopiao on the side directly covered Xiao Qingluan's mouth. At the same time, the other hand couldn't stop patting Xiao Qingluan's buttocks. It's okay, it's okay. This kid's brain has been a little abnormal since he was a child, and he likes to talk nonsense. Don't worry about it. Lu Piao explained with a smile. While talking, the hand that smacked Xiao Qingluan's butt didn't show any intention of stopping. Xiao Qingluan was beaten with tears in her eyes, and looked at her sister, wanting her to intercede for her. But Xiao Wanqing didn't seem to see it, staring at Suzy, motionless. But if you observe carefully, you will find that the roots of her ears have become red. Obviously, she knew what her sister Xiao Qingluan was talking about. Lu Ruyan was a little puzzled, but she also understood that they didn't want to say it, and kept it in her heart. At the same time, in the mirror image, a gigantic beam of endless thunder break the space and come across the border from endless distant places. On top of Suzy's head, he transformed into a world-destroying I-900 composed of countless thunderbolts. Destroy. Suzy pointed to the fleeing Nasta. Instantly, the world-exterminating eye blasted out a thunderbolt and went straight to Nasta. This moment, time and space have lost their meaning. Thousands of light years away. Pulled in an instant. Nasta looked back, not even having time to think. The divine thunder with the aura of destroying the world wiped out little by little. Turned into a spot of light. Dissipated in the thunder of the gods. A Zerg giant high god who traversed the Starsea couldn't survive even a second. At the moment when the thunder that destroys the world descends, will die completely. Broken souls, no hope of resurrection. In the endless void, suddenly became quiet again. All those who watched all this were silent at the moment. Because the final result turned out to be the death of the upper god. There is not even scum left of the dead. I said it all, you can't bear it. Suzy snorted coldly and ignored it. Nasta is dead. His revenge has been temporarily avenged. He also needs to revive the goblin, Xiaoju and his cannons as soon as possible. Suzy left and disappeared. However, the fall of the high god caused an uproar among countless races. Chapter 63. Irina, who is brain-filled, restores the original territory. Dead. In the deep space, Irina's eyes widened, she was a little stunned for a moment, and she couldn't believe it. What was that just now? Just a flash of light. A high god of the same level as her died without the slightest resistance. It's a conspiracy. A conspiracy against me. Irina recalled the whole incident. Starting from discovering that the human lord is a different kind. The Zerg began to die one by one. Until just now. The human race picture is poor. Using his background, he killed a Zerg high god giant. Moreover, it is killed from the root, and there is no possibility of resurrection. The human race is the biggest beneficiary of this battle. Maybe the only thing they didn't expect. I'll call on Nasta, another Zerg overlord. Otherwise, it is very likely that the one who is wiped out now is himself. Thought everything through. Irina's face was full of joy. When watching Wu Qingying again, the gaze has completely changed. Obviously, to say who is most likely to be in the layout of the human race. There is no doubt that it is Wu Qingying. They have been fighting for thousands of years, and the hatred between the two sides has long been endless. Before, she thought that Wu Qingying was just a simple-minded woman with well-developed limbs. But what happened today told her. All of this was just an illusion deliberately released by the other party to confuse her. The other party is actually a full-fledged scheming queen. Wu Qingying, I didn't expect you to play such a big game of chess, let me misunderstand you from the beginning. Irina sneered. Now that she knew about Wu Qingying's ugly face, how could she still be fooled? Now maybe secretly there is a strong human race of the same level, who is preparing to attack her. So without saying a word, she just disappeared in a flash. When she left, she took a deep look at Wu Qingying, she would definitely come back for revenge. Wu Qingying. Diaresis. What chess? What misunderstanding? What is that bitch Irina saying? Unable to figure it out, Wu Qingying shook her head and stopped thinking about it. She has always been like this. If she can't figure it out, she keeps silent, and others think she understands. In this way, not only can you relax a lot, but you can also confuse the enemy. It seems that Irina, that stinky bitch, has made up a lot of brains. The key is, this time, I won again. Wu Qingying waved her fist. A trace of excitement flashed across her face. Really, she still likes fighting the most, and managing territories is not her strong point at all. It's time to find that brat. Wu Qingying is very curious about Suzy at this time. A person who has not yet become a god can actually make the attack of the upper god ineffective against him. This heaven-defying ability. Simply invincible. Could this be his awakened talent? Wu Qingying's real name expressed envy. In addition to being relatively short-lived, the alien lord's talent is really top-notch. But also because of this. They are the easiest to be missed, and they often don't live for too long. Natural caller. Suzy looked at the dilapidated scene around him, clenched his fists and looked stern. He's still not strong enough. Become a god. Must become a god. If you don't become a god, you're just an ant after all. Suzy swears. He will never allow what happened today to repeat itself. Do you want to consume 10 million source crystals and 300,000 source points to restore the territory and all buildings? Standing under the world tree, a reminder came from Suzy's eyes. It's almost 1/3 of all my source crystals and source points. The next day is really big. Suzy felt a little uncomfortable. After clearing the 7th level, he got 30 million source crystals and 1 million source points. Restoring the territory this time will cost a full third. Even for Suzy, it was enough to hurt his muscles. Sighing, Suzy chose to agree. Next moment, the 10 million source crystals and 300,000 source points in the inventory disappeared directly. At the same time, natural collar springs of gold began to emerge from the ground. Jingquan passed by. The earth is full of exotic flowers and plants again, fragrant and colorful. The earth is repaired. The distance between the cracks begins to shrink. It was as if there was a hand that wiped away the scars on the earth, and quickly recovered completely. Broken buildings with only their foundations left. Start bottom up, piece by piece recovery. Suddenly, spiritual spring is once again filled with clear spiritual water full of spirituality. Now this spiritual spring is a 7th order product, and its value is extremely precious. Watching pools Dragon Head and Phoenix Beak began to flow into the steaming hot spring water again. Fish Pond has also been restored, and the pond is full of goldfish swimming around again. When I am free, Suzy decided to come and have fun. Next time I will never fly. Fan Tower, once again revived. The word, Fan Tower, on the plaque in front of the door is lifelike. The 7-story fan building has gathered all the delicacies below the 7th level of the heavens, and it is destined to be crowded with people in the future. In the spring eyes in the wine pond, there are layers of fine nectar and jade liquid. Each layer is thicker and richer, and the sun and the moon are stronger than each other. The aroma of wine lingered for 3 days, but after just smelling it, I felt a little drunk. Secret Garden of the Gods, in which all kinds of exotic flowers and plants are competing to bloom, extremely gorgeous, and many extinct flowers in the outside world, bloom again here. In the center of the secret garden, there are 7 bottles of miracle perfume lying there, Wang Laohao constantly receiving drops of perfume condensed from the garden. Every drop of this kind of perfume is full of fatal temptation for girls who love beauty. In Lingtian, the planted dragon tooth rice and wolfberry seeds have germinated and grown half-meter high leaves. It would not take long to harvest 10 batches of high-quality imperial spirit plants. The last Hall of Valor still stands there, solemn and solemn. Explosive Flame Tower, Arrow Tower, Steel City Wall, Bow and Crossbow Tower, and finally Lay Tower. All of them were restored to their original state, glowing with a different kind of golden light. Seeing that his territory was restored to its original state again, Suzy was very excited, with a smile on his face. After restoring the territory and buildings, it's time to revive the heroes and units. Quote, Little fairy, don't worry, the master will revive you right away. Suzy speeded up and rushed to the Hall of Heroes. Chapter 64. Arms and Heroes with Improved Strength, Temptation of the Goblin. Hall of Valor. Type. Rule Department. Quality. Legend. Grade. 88. Resurrection Restriction. Tier 9. Function. Resurrection of Heroes, Resurrection of Arms. Introduction. No one knows which one will come first, accident or tomorrow, but with it, no longer worry about accidents. The rule of the Hall of Valor is that as long as the source crystals are consumed, the heroes and units to which they belong can be revived. Just in case, Suzy has promoted the territory and all arms to rank 9. Do you want to consume 8 million source crystals and resurrect 2,000 P cannons? Suzy took a look. About 1 P cannon needs to consume 4,000 source crystals. No doubt, it's totally worth it. The value of each tier 6 P cannon to him is much more than that. Without hesitation, Suzy exchanged directly. Next moment. On the huge central array of the Hall of Valor, the light flickered, incomparable. The sound of protection came from the ancient priests, and the sound of welcoming souls permeated the Hall of Valor. Subsequently, the bodies of P cannons condensed in the light. 10, 100, 1000, 2000, a total of 2000 P173 cannons were condensed from the Hall of Valor at this moment. Do beep, beep beep, beep beep. The P cannons made sounds one by one, and looked around excitedly, but they didn't expect them to come alive. Okay, let's all go out, and we have to resurrect other people. Suzy drove them all away. Each P cannon, with feet composed of 8 giant leaves. Walking up the steel city wall step by step, he acted as a tireless guard again, protecting the safety of the natural caller. 8th step. Suzy was pleasantly surprised. At the end of this battle, all the 2000 units have been promoted to the 8th rank. 2080 tier P cannon. Suzy didn't know how terrifying their power would be. I don't know who will be lucky enough to experience their terrible power. Xiaoju, come back. Suzy said. 20,000 source crystals dissipated. The same light as before enveloped the entire Hall of Valor. Next moment, Xiaoju's figure stepped out of the light, and immediately came in front of Suzy, agged. Now, Suzy found that Xiaoju now has 8 leaves. Obviously, she gained a lot in the final battle. A set of data emerges in front of us. 9-leaf sword grass. Race, plant, quality, supreme, grade, 78, bloodline, 9-leaf sword grass. Talent, practice the sword to become stronger. Physique, 80 million. Agility, 82 million. Spirit, 88 million. Skills, sword shadow, sword drawing, sword ju, crosscut, continuous cut, 7 tribulations sword technique, zitting. Loyalty, 100% permanent. Introduction. Reborn, I will work harder to practice sword. Emma Zerg Mother Queen at the 8th level of abuse. Suzy couldn't help admiring. Xiaoju has 3 attributes, the lowest physique is 80 million, and the highest spirit is 88 million. Compared with her, Queen Emma's attributes of more than 30 million are completely incomparable. As expected of a superior, the attribute exploded. Suzy is extremely satisfied with Xiaoju. Lord, thank you for resurrecting me. I will work hard to practice my sword. Next time I meet that enemy, I will kill him. During the reminder, Xiaoju said murderously. He is dead. Suzy smiled and shook his head. Okay, Lord, I am going to practice swords, I will protect you next time. Never let you get hurt again. Xiaoju was a little disappointed that he couldn't kill that powerful enemy himself, but he still made a firm promise. She is the hero summoned by Suzy, and she is supposed to protect Suzy from harm, but she has no power to resist when the enemy makes a move. It was a disgrace to her. She will become stronger. Go. Suzy waved to him. Phew, it's finally time for the little elf. Suzy directly took out 500 source crystals to revive the goblin. A red light glows in the array. Soon, the goblin walked out of the formation. Owner. The moment the little fairy saw Suzy, her beautiful eyes flickered, and then she rushed directly into Suzy's arms at a speed of sprinting 100 meters. 2 arms hugged Suzy's neck tightly, and a pair of slender white thighs were crossed around Suzy's waist. The whole figure hangs on Suzy like an octopus. Master. The goblin sniffed Suzy's scent greedily, fearing that she would never smell it again. Okay. Suzy also felt delighted when he saw the little goblin. He patted her buttocks, trying to take her off his body. But the little goblin was unwilling. Master, let me hug you for a while. The little fairy said coquettishly. Suzy had no choice but to give up. Suddenly, the goblin stretched her mouth to Suzy's ear, and said softly, Master, can I sleep with you tonight? Row. Suzy thought that the little goblin had just been resurrected and was a little scared, so she agreed. See Suzy nodding. A red light flashed in the little goblin's red eyes. Tonight, just tonight, must eat the master. Can't wait any longer. She also wants to become stronger. She doesn't want to be separated from Suzy again. So, squeeze the master. Can become stronger. The little fairy swore in her heart. Obviously this death hit her hard. Boom. Suddenly, there were bursts of P cannon explosions outside the territory. Suzy's complexion changed. Who's attacking the territory? The goblin also quickly got off Suzy. Then follow Suzy to the steel city wall. I saw 2000 P cannons violently bombarding the figure in the sky. But the beautiful figure in the starry sky, not only unscathed. He even took all the bombs of the P cannon and played them around. See Suzy come out. The figure in the sky stopped playing and said to Suzy. Suzy, I'm Vermilion Bird Lord Wu Qingying, your unit is interesting. I'm getting more and more interested in you. Chapter 65. The Supreme Shot, the Bounty on the Board, the increasingly lively Xiaoju Tianzhao battle. Steel walls. Suzy couldn't help but twitched his mouth when he saw the beautiful woman who could hold the neutron bomb of the 8th stage P cannon in her hand and play with it at will. There is no doubt that this is a god, and its rank is very high. Why is there another god? Did he clash with the gods today, or else the mysterious gods would come one after another today? Identification. Suzy's eyes flashed, and a set of information appeared. Dance and shadow. Race. Human. Level. High god. Quality. Legend. Constitution. Agile. Spirit. Introduction. Look no further, little doll. See the introduction. Suzy raised his head suddenly, and saw Wu Qingying looking at him with a smile, not a smile. Suzy immediately knew that his identification had been discovered. Student Suzy, remember, don't judge other people's information at will, otherwise it will be regarded as a provocation. Wu Qingying held her breast in one hand, and swung her index finger from side to side. Thank you for reminding. Suzy vigilance. In the future, appraisal cannot be used casually, at least not for people who are too strong compared to themselves. I know you have a lot of doubts in your heart now, but now all the problems are solved. Seeing the vigilance in Suzy's eyes, Wu Qingying waved her hand and threw something to Suzy. Because you are the pride of the human race, there should be someone protecting you and protecting you, but I never thought that the other party would attack you without even going through the trial. So this time it's the lack of protection from the higher-ups of the human race, and this is your compensation. Suzy took it and took a closer look. This is a perfect prismatic crystal exuding colorful divine light. High Godhead. Quality. Legend. Level. High God. Attributes. Insect, beast, poison. Introduction. A complete godhead enough to drive a god crazy can create at least one middle god. After reading it, Suzy's pupils shrank, his expression was shocked, and his breath became short of breath. This turned out to be a complete high god godhead. Godhead is the authority of the gods. The Lord wants to become a god. In addition to the need to turn the territory into a god, you must also obtain a godhead that matches your own Lord template. For example, someone awakened the Zerg template. Then he had to find a Zerg godhead that could be integrated with the Zerg template. Otherwise, it will be rejected by the Zerg template. In the process of becoming a god, the body dies and the Tao disappears. This leads to, if a human lord wants to become a god, he must first destroy a god to obtain his godhead. So, to become a god, countless 9th rank lords headed to the cosmic sea one after another, with the purpose of hunting down the indigenous gods and obtaining their godheads. Because their godheads are the easiest to obtain compared to Zerg, demon race and other higher races. After all, some indigenous gods are not even comparable to human lords of the 7th or 8th rank. Certainly, obtaining the godhead of others is just a shortcut for ordinary lords. They have to stop at the level of godhead they have obtained all their lives. Unless you get a stronger godhead. But almost impossible. Talented monsters with stronger aspirations will choose the path that best suits their godhead. So that you can go further on your own path. But this cannot conceal the value of a high god godhead. Guaranteed to cultivate a mid-god, with a bit of luck, it is not impossible to be promoted to a high god. Such a godhead, it is enough to make countless of them who have been in the middle gods for countless years go crazy. Not everyone can become a high god, otherwise the high god would not be so precious. It is the achievement of the middle god. They have stumped batch after batch of so-called geniuses and monsters. Otherwise, how could the 4 great gods in Qinghai City be the most common lower gods? There are many ways to become a god. But those who can go further on the road to becoming a god. But there is only one way to condense one's own godhead. The rest are heretics, with a limited future and subject to various constraints. Naturally, Suzy would not choose to fuse this godhead. Not only does he not match this godhead, what's more, his future will never stop at the middle god or the upper god. With the world tree as the core of the Lord, climb to the top. It's only a matter of time. Carefully put away the high god godhead and reserve it for other uses in the future. Suzy looked at Wu Qingying again. This time, his eyes were no longer so vigilant. To be able to give the high god godhead to himself, at least he is not a treacherous and evil person. High god godhead, I don't have many such good things. I really want it. In fact, Wu Qingying's heart is bleeding, and she is very reluctant to part with the high god's divinity. Such a good thing is enough to exchange for shocking resources, which will help her become a god king. But this is the Zerg godhead that Suzy killed, the Supreme himself condensed. Give her to Suzy. How dare she covet? Keep your godhead in good condition. Don't be discovered by others, otherwise you probably won't be able to keep it. Although Wu Qingying is greedy for Suzy's godhead, she won't attack him. On the one hand, he was not sure, after all, he killed a high god who was at the same level as her. The second is her own pride. Suzy is a genius, so why not? She has reached this height for thousands of years, her talent and luck are unparalleled in the world. There is no godhead, but the time to become a god king is a little later. 0. Seeking flowers. Harmless. Yes. Suzy nodded. It is true that outsiders should not know. Otherwise, he will never have peace. Don't blame the human race for not helping. In fact, I have been fighting with another Zerg high god in the deep dimension, but I didn't expect the Zerg to send 2 high gods. And the human race has already avenged you. Wu Qingying then briefly told Suzy what happened. Suzy was in awe, speechless towards the Zerg race. The Zerg actually dispatched 2 high gods, how shameless. And just when he upgraded and restored the territory. The human race actually sent a supreme leader to negotiate with the Zerg race in person. At the cost of destroying several universes of the Zerg. Force the Zerg to sign a peace agreement. Guaranteed not to send strong men to attack and kill the geniuses of the race. This moved Suzy very much. 0. Supreme. It is a supreme honor to actually do it yourself. Suzy silently memorized the name of that supreme person, and there may be a chance to meet in the future. But you're in trouble, too. Suddenly, Wu Qingying said with a smile to Suzy. There was some gloating in her eyes. Suzy shook his head, thinking he was wrong. How could the upper god be so childish? What trouble? You see, your news was made public by the Zerg. At the same time, a reward was issued to you. Wu Qingying sent the message to Suzy. Suzy took a look, and his face turned black. Human Suzy, the lord of the plant department, is a different kind of lord of the human race once in tens of millions of years. Devouring its territory can obtain its talent, which can help all races quickly break through to become gods, and even has great help in breaking through to god kings. If someone catches him, Zerg is willing to exchange all the resources of a middle god. Publisher, Zerg High God Irina, remarks, personal test. Who is this Irina? I want to kill her. Suzy clenched his fists, his eyes were shining brightly, and his breathing was uneven. What she said about Suzy is comparable to the legendary Tang monk meat. This is enough to put Suzy in countless dangers. Don't worry, the Supreme has already ordered that all gods are forbidden to take action against the new lord. So your danger is mainly the arrogance of all races. Seeing Suzy's gloomy face, Wu Qingying explained. For you, all races are vying to submit applications to my human race to participate in the Battle of Xiaoju Tianzhou, and even sent many seed-level geniuses from all races to hunt and kill you. Suzy's face became slightly relaxed when he heard this. When my peers compete, I am not inferior to anyone. A trace of ferocity flashed in Suzy's eyes, and he said calmly. Who hunts who is not sure. It just so happens that he lacks a source. These alien races are nothing more than a group of resources. Chapter 66. Appreciating teacher Wu Qingying, jealous of Lu Ruyan asking for flowers and evaluation tickets. Okay, this is the ambition that I, the pride of the human race, should have. Isn't it just a group of crooked melons and split dates? Back then, I fought from east to west, from south to north in the hegemony competition. Let their blood flow into a river, and they will never dare to trouble me again. Seeing that Suzy was full of confidence, Wu Qingying couldn't help but nodded. Suzy is very angry with her. Talented, not proud. He is also quite handsome, looking seductive and comfortable. Even in the face of the upper gods, he can be neither humble nor overbearing, calm and composed. Such a person is destined to become a strong man. Suddenly, like remembering something, Wu Qingying asked Suzy. Suzy, are you willing to be my disciple? What happened today? It also made her realize that personal power is limited after all. Although she thinks she is invincible, she will eventually encounter difficulties. Because of his bold temperament, he hopes to do things according to his preferences. So she offended many, 750. That's why no one came to help her today. But she is too lazy to flirt with those old antiques, she can't play in the circle of those people. Then she creates her own circle. Disciple. Suzy was taken aback when he heard this. That's right, I am Lord Vermilion Bird's eldest disciple. Wu Qingying nodded proudly and said. She hasn't confiscated her disciples yet. If Suzy agrees, then he will be her first disciple. From then on, the two shared weal and woe, and they agreed to the outside world. I agree. Suzy thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Lord Vermilion Bird. Suzy grew up listening to her legendary stories. He also came from an ordinary family, but has become a high god for thousands of years. It is even about to hit the God King realm. No doubt. She is a top evildoer, but also a top powerhouse. If she openly said to accept disciples, I'm afraid that someone who wants to be her apprentice can lead Noda's Vermilion Bird around. Not to mention that the master is still a top beauty. It is also very seductive to look at. Suzy naturally has no reason to disagree. With such a master to follow, countless troubles can be saved. Comprehensive consideration. The advantages of apprenticeship outweigh the disadvantages. Suzy chose to agree. Good, good, good. Wu Qingying was overjoyed and went out for a trip. Not only did he win against that bitch Irina, but he also received a cute and handsome apprentice. Well worth the trip. The disciple pays homage to the master. Suzy flew out of the territory, came to Wu Qingying, and wanted to pay homage to her teacher. No need. Wu Qingying reaches out to help Suzy up. But he felt empty with one hand, and passed directly through Suzy's body. Huh, it's really amazing. Wu Qingying amazed. Even she can't even touch Suzy. This disciple is really amazing. But she still waved to Suzy. Wait until you return from the little pig contest, and then start a formal apprenticeship. I don't pay much attention to these rules, so we don't have to see outsiders. Yes, master. Suzy is naturally so happy. This is a token for you. It represents your identity. Wu Qingying said, and handed Suzy a token. Suzy took it. Engraved on it is a lifelike vermilion bird that seems to be flying to the 9 heavens. With this token, in the collar of Vermilion Bird, no one will dare to provoke you. If you encounter trouble, directly report the teacher's name. Whoever doesn't show face, I will kill him. Wu Qingying waved her big hand and said domineeringly. Obviously, her mother showed the majesty of the teacher. Suzy put away the token and bowed to Wu Qingying. Thank you, master. With this token, the relationship between their master and apprentice was settled. Okay, let me go in and see your territory. Wu Qingying said curiously. Standing outside the territory, she can only see the people on the city wall, but she is also very curious about what it looks like in Suzy's territory. Next time for sure. Suzy declined. Some things can't be messed around with. Hey, I dare not let the teacher see it. Do you hide your beauty in the golden house inside? Wu Qingying asked with a half smile. Talking. I also looked at the goblin on the city wall. Even the eyes of her high god couldn't find the slightest flaw in her. His appearance is overwhelming, not like the world, but like a gift from heaven. A pair of graceful figure, even compared with her, is not too much. This kid is so lucky. Wu Qingying didn't mind anything. As long as Suzy doesn't meet a scumbag who loves another. She doesn't care. After all, he is still young, and apart from upgrading the territory, that's all he thinks about all day long. No, I'm afraid that the things inside will scare you. Suzy shook his head in embarrassment. This master is surprisingly approachable. But in his domain, almost all of the legendary buildings are high gods, and Yin's doesn't think they can match him in architecture. Not to mention the world tree in the territory. That's Suzy's biggest secret. Even teachers can't go in. Unless you are completely your own. Forget it, let's do it next time we have a chance. Seeing that the apprentice was a little reluctant, Wu Qingying was fine. After all, a person's territory belongs to personal privacy. There is not enough trust between them, and it will be fine after a long time. For God, the least valuable thing is time. Cancel your status, and I will take you back to Vermilion Bird. Now because of this incident, the Xiaozhu Tianjiao battle may have to be postponed for 2 days. Wu Qingying said with emotion. As a disciple, I have first-class ability to cause trouble. But not to be jealous, is a mediocrity. Which god didn't come out of a pile of bones? Although she didn't provoke the upper gods to attack back then, she still killed a lot of people. Now it's her apprentice's turn. Suzy nodded and told the little fairy about the news. Then he was dragged by Wu Qingying to travel directly through time and space. Qinghai City, Qingyan Middle School. A group of people talking and full of curiosity. The moment the principal's image appeared in the eye of extermination, it was shattered by the supreme majesty. Even because of this, the principal has been seriously injured. What happened in the end? Why did it get to the most critical moment, and I couldn't see it anymore? I don't know. What is that huge thunder eye? Why do I have a kind feeling? Who can tell me the final result? What happened to Suzy Tianzhao? I think there is a high probability that Suzy Tianzhao killed the Zerg High God with that giant eye. 5.6. How is it possible? That is the upper god. How could he die so easily? Void. Lu Ruyan looked worried, not knowing what the outcome would be. How about I try it now? Lu Piao whispered. After all, it has been so long, the battle should have ended. No need, Mom, who do you think that is? Suddenly, Xiao Qingluan jumped up, took Xiao Wanqing's hand with one hand, and pointed to the sky with the other and said excitedly. Everyone heard the words and looked up. Then I saw a stunning beauty appearing on Qingyan Square holding a handsome young man by the hand. Suzy. The three were pleasantly surprised, and smiles appeared on their faces instantly. Suddenly, Lu Piao noticed the peerless beauty Suzy was holding. Suddenly the smile on his face disappeared. Chapter 67. Greetings, gods, do you want a wife? Sister Double Flower. Is that Suzy? Damn it, Suzy is back. The pride of our Qingyan Middle School. My idol. He is so handsome, but who is beside her? It's over. Do I have no chance with Suzy? Why do I feel so familiar? I seem to have seen it somewhere. Stop kidding. You're the only one who's ever seen it. The crowd shouted excitedly, feeling excited about the two figures that suddenly appeared in the sky. A man and a woman. The man is very handsome, and the woman is all over the country, dressed in red, extremely beautiful. Your popularity is quite high. Looking at the roaring crowd below, Wu Qingying smiled, smiling all over the city. If this scene is seen by those who have been following Wu Qingying all year round, they will definitely widen their eyes in surprise. Because Wu Qingying's image to outsiders is always aloof, almost no one has ever seen her smile. Neither did I. Suzy naturally also saw the crowd below, frowned slightly. He didn't like this lively scene. Otherwise, it will not be outside the class. Then let's go. Let's change to a quiet place. Wu Qingying also doesn't like to be lively. Just thought Suzy wanted to come here. After all, he can be regarded as returning to his hometown now, and won the third place in the Tianzhao list. Naturally likes to show off. Who knows that my disciple 06 is really not interested in it? Suzy nodded and looked around. He didn't find the figure he wanted in the crowd. Then it doesn't matter to him here. Hey, someone is here. Suddenly, Wu Qingying frowned. Next moment, two figures, one large and one small, appeared in front of them. Dan Chusheng, the mayor of Qinghai City, pays his respects to His Majesty. My subordinate Wu Sanlang, the principal of Qingyan Middle School in Qinghai City, pays his respects to His Majesty. As soon as they appeared, the two knelt down at Wu Qingcheng's feet. All of a sudden, the scene was silent, and a needle could be heard. Everyone held their breath, not daring to say anything. Some people are even thinking about whether they said something wrong just now. Fear of being punished. When Lu Piao heard the words, her face changed drastically in fright, and she quickly removed the hidden barrier. Quickly rushed to Wu Qingcheng, quickly bowed down on one knee. Lu Piao, pay my respects to your majesty. Wu Qingying glanced at Suzy from the corner of her eye. Ri Shuang seemed to be talking. See, this is the majesty of the high god. Suzy was speechless, but in his heart he valued strength more and more. The majestic principal in the past and the mayor who had never seen before were placed at his feet. Of the four gods in Qinghai City, there are now three. Suzy knows. All of this was brought about by Wu Qingying's strength. High god. To deal with ordinary gods, they can be destroyed with a flick of a finger. Well, this is my new apprentice Suzy. From now on you will see him as if you were seeing me. Wu Qingying was very indifferent to them, with a strong majesty on her body, not at all as appropriate as when she was talking to Suzy. Yes, I will see your highness. X3. The three of them were horrified, and immediately bowed their hands to Suzy. The Lord of Vermilion Bird has accepted his disciples. This is a big deal for the entire Vermilion Bird collar. They can even predict tomorrow's headlines. Lu Piao looked into Suzy's eyes. Mixed feelings. Before Xiao Qingluan thought that the two sisters married him alone, she still thought it was ridiculous. But now she feels that even if the two of them back up, Suzy doesn't necessarily want it. Who would have thought? Suzy would be valued by His Royal Highness, leader of Vermilion Bird, and accepted as a disciple, and he is still the great disciple of Kaishan. Such an identity. It means that Suzy will gain the supremacy of being under one person and above 10,000 people in Vermilion Bird. The two sisters of the Xiao family are not worthy of Suzy at this time. Thinking of this, her eyes dimmed a bit. They have no chance to have a relationship with such an arrogance. Suzy felt that the plump young lady-like goddess seemed to be constantly looking at herself. He looked at her strangely. Although he is handsome. But it is also impossible to fascinate a god at a glance. Ahem. Wu Qingying noticed Suzy's gaze, saw him staring at Lu Piao, and couldn't help reminding him. Pay attention to the occasion. If you want to watch it, wait until there is no one else. Suzy's face is black. No matter how hungry and thirsty he is, he will never attack a middle-aged woman. Okay, step back, I'm just going to accompany my disciple. After all, Wu Qingying waved her hand. The three gods nodded in agreement, and then retreated. Suzy, I will pick you up in 3 days to take part in the Xiaoju Tianjiao battle, and you can arrange these few days. Wu Qingying didn't want to stay here too long. The adoring eyes of the people below made her very uncomfortable. After speaking, he disappeared immediately. It's really. Suzy muttered in a low voice, and then saw the beautiful figure in the void. A smile appeared on his face immediately, and he flew towards the other party. When the people below saw Wu Qingying leave, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. That was the Lord just now, right? Did I hear correctly? That's right, I was lucky enough to meet the Lord, and I will live and die without regret. I was wondering if I said something wrong just now, and I must not leave a bad impression on the Lord. Just now the Lord said that Suzy is his disciple. Lord's disciple, I will only call him Your Highness in the future. Your Highness Suzy, I want to give birth to a monkey for you. Suzy heard the sound and saw that it was a pretty girl. In the past, he would definitely go up and have a chat. But now Ruyan Lu is number one. Teacher, I'm back. Suzy came to Lu Ruyan and smiled. Come back when you come back, it's not a big deal. What, after becoming His Highness, you still need me, a teacher, to stand up and greet him? When Lu Ruyan heard that Suzy was the disciple of Lord Vermilion Bird. I am no longer angry. But now that there are so many people, it is not good for her to get too close to Suzy. Waiting to go home. When there were only 2 of them left, she chatted with Suzy all night long. 7 days no see. She has a lot to say to Suzy, and there are many things she wants to do with Suzy. Of course not, I just want to thank the teacher for giving me the defensive building, which helped me a lot. Please invite the teacher to come to my house for dinner tonight. Suzy shook his head, smiled and stared at Lu Ruyan's eyes. He just likes Lu Ruyan's upright look, it's so cute. Ahem, Your Highness Suzy, hello. Suddenly, a clear and pleasant voice came from the side, interrupting the 2 men and women who were eyeing each other. Suzy's eyes lit up when he heard the sound. The one who greeted him was a petite girl with a youthful and lovely appearance. The eyes are slightly raised, the eyes are smiling, the body has not yet opened, but it can be seen that it is a rare beauty embryo. Beside her is a tall, protruding, backward-looking girl with a face like peaches and plums, as cold as ice, Xiao Wanqing. Suzy recognized her. After becoming a lord, after being baptized, she became more and more cold at this time. The faces of the 2 women are similar. One is cold and the other is cute. One is as hot as fire, and the other is as cold as plum. It's a good sister double flower. I don't know who will get these 2 girls in the future, which is very enviable. His Royal Highness Suzy, do you want a wife or not? If you do, get 2 at once. The little girl smiled and raised 2 fingers towards Suzy. Chapter 68. The Xiao family, mother and daughter, sleepless tonight. Suzy, what does it mean? Self-recommendation did not buy one get one free. Snapped. A crisp slap hit the back of the little girl's head. I made you laugh, Your Highness, this is my second daughter who likes to mess around, don't mind. Lu Piao pulled her little daughter and quickly apologized to Suzy. Now Suzy is His Royal Highness of their Vermilion Bird collar. They can't afford to be provoked. Suzy looked at the 3 people in front of him. The 3 of them stood together, like a flower competing for splendor. Lu Piao looks like a red peony, and a ripe one looks like a plump and juicy peach, but unexpectedly, it has a hint of greenness. Xiao Qingluan is more like a carnation, pink connected, warm and cheerful, with a sweet smile, the easiest to touch people's hearts, soothing people's scars, and has the power of healing. The last Xiao Wanqing is like a narcissus, white as snow, light and elegant, can be seen from a distance but not be played with. Each has its own advantages and disadvantages, and you will never tire of watching them. It's okay, I look at her very cute. Susie smiled and didn't care. The divine woman in front of her seemed a little too nervous. Mom, if you hit me again, you'll make me look stupid, and you will never find such a good uncle again. Xiao Qingluan covered her head, crying and aggrieved. Xiao Wanqing was on the side, her cold eyes unblinking, and she nodded towards Su District. Then she pulled Xiao Qingluan and ran away quickly. She was worried that Qingluan would say something shocking to the world again. Lu Piao saluted slightly to Suzy, then left after her and disappeared in a blink of an eye. What? Which of the three do you like? Or do you like all of them? Do you want my sister to match you? Smelly brother. As soon as Lu Piao left, Lu Ruyan stood behind Suzy and whispered in Suzy's ear. The corner of Suzy's smiling mouth stiffened unconsciously, and the pain in the soft flesh around his waist made him no longer able to think about it. No way, I only have my sister in my heart. Suzy turned around, wrapped her arms around Lu Ruyan's slender waist with one hand, and held her tightly with the other like green fingers. Hey, my stinky brother is getting more and more talkative. Although Lu Ruyan was happy in her heart, it didn't show on her face. With a few strands of black hair on his forehead, he fiddled with Suzy's neck. Sister, let's go home and play again. Suzy lowered his head and asked the girl in his arms. Okay, Lu Ruyan nodded. She had long missed her younger brother. After all, the two hurried home like flying. Qingyan Plaza, unknown place. Wu Qingying looked at the direction Suzy left, hesitating to speak. This big apprentice seems to be a little different from what I expected. Sister Flower, teacher, mother and daughter. Next. Wu Qingying looked up and down at herself. Overwhelming country and city, top-notch figure, proud figure, high cold temperament. Master and apprentice. No. He must not be allowed to be a rebellious disciple. Her ambition in this life is the highest, and she has no interest in such things as love and romance. But she thought about it. It seems that in Suzy's eyes, only respect, and no other thoughts. Am I thinking too much? Wu Qingying felt that her mind was a little confused and troubled. She hates these love affairs the most. It's not as comfortable as fighting with real swords and guns on the battlefield. But, Wu Qingying thought of Lu Ruyan's delicate body that was about to shatter, her brows were slightly exposed. In her eyes, that Lu Ruyan was covered with cracks. Like the territory is about to be broken. Once the territory is broken, his dear teacher is afraid that he is going to die. But it's not impossible. It depends on whether Suzy has a chance to get that equipment. Shaking his head, no longer think about it. Turn away. She needs to arrange the Xiaoju Tianjiao battle. This time the battle is unusual. Night. Suzy and Ruyan Lu ate together until late, talking and laughing. Suzy's exhaustion from the past 7 days also dissipated in the conversation with Ruyan Lu. After eating, the two hugged each other for a while. Go back to each house to prevent misfires. 11 p.m. Outside Suzy's concierge, Ruyan Lu was wearing a bathrobe just after taking a shower, biting her lips lightly. The beautiful face has turned red at this time. She held the handle of the door with one hand. It seems to be hesitating and seems to be opened. Lu Ruyan, you don't have much time anyway, why don't you take advantage of this last time to have fun? In order not to leave regrets, isn't it just a pain? Don't be afraid. Lu Ruyan took a deep breath, and forcefully opened the door of Suzy's room. Suzy, I am king. Lu Ruyan wanted to have a complete showdown with Suzy loudly, but he didn't finish. She saw the empty bed. Not a single person was there. Ruyan Lu. She came to deliver the head in the middle of the night, but it turned out that she was not lonely. Suddenly, the courage that had been brought up with great difficulty disappeared in the blink of an eye. Desperately ran back to the bedroom, rushed into the bed and curled up into a ball. At the same time, natural caller. The stars are bright and the moon is dazzling. City Lord's Mansion, Jiaxing Pavilion. Under the moonlight, the little fairy dances gracefully. There was a slight breeze blowing nearby, and the peach blossoms jumped into the attic with the wind. The wonderful figure shuttles among the shadows of the flowers, and the fallen flowers fall on the rotating feet with the fluttering skirts. With a light hand, dancing the fragrance, paving the surface in the wind. Master, do I dance well? The little goblin, Nodes, was lying on Suzy's arms, a pair of water-like smoke mooing. It's beautiful, the little fairy's dance is unparalleled in the world. Suzy looked down at the little elf's flawless face, and stroked. Then, does the master like it? The fragrance from the little fairy's mouth hit Susie's nose and mouth, soothing like a veil. Like very much. Susie hugged the little goblin's slender waist, nodded with fiery eyes. Wen Yan, the little goblin chuckled, stretched her jade neck to Susie's ear, and poured out the fragrance. Master, it's late at night, it's time for us to rest. After all, the goblin buried her head in Susie's strong chest and refused to lift it up. Go, Master will take you to sleep. Susie hugged the little fairy's willow waist with one hand, and supported her legs with the other. Pick up its princess. Fly quickly towards the bedroom. Chapter 69. The arrival of Wu Qingying, Lu Ruyan's illness, and Xiao Zhu Tiantian's arrogant battle. Last night, it was raining and windy, and a bright red flower bloomed among the flowers with a little dewdrops. Until the cock crows, the loud and clear cry of the nightingale slowly receded just now. 8 in the morning, Lu Ruyan came to invite Susie to eat. People are not there. Frowning slightly, he closed the door and left. 10 o'clock in the morning, Lu Raven came to look for Susie again, but he was not there. His fists were clenched tightly, and there was a hint of anger. 12 o'clock in the morning, Susie knelt on a mechanical keyboard. In front of him was the menacing Lu Ruyan holding a stick. Say, what did you do? Lu Ruyan's pair of crisp breasts were ups and downs, swaying. From night to noon, there was no one at all. Susie looked haggard. I was busy last night until early morning, and I was busy with morning exercises for 2 hours. Forgot the time, ignored Ruyan Lu, and sinned. It can only be said that the little goblin is worthy of being a goblin, and she is so good at all kinds of tricks, making Susie linger on. Standing up, in Lu Ruyan's astonishment, he hugged her in his arms for a while and coaxed her. In the end, a series of unequal treaties were signed and various guarantees were made. Only then did Lu Ruyan's anger dissipate. 3 days. Like a white horse passing through the gap, it passes in the blink of an eye. In 3 days, Susie played around with Ruyan Lu during the day. Susie had no money before, so Susie was embarrassed to spend Lu Ruyan's money. Now he doesn't lack these little money, so he is naturally having fun. Playing with Ruyan Lu during the day. Lock the doors and windows at night on 910, and fight with the goblin until dawn. The timing is clearly arranged. Although life is tight, Susie is very happy. And every time Susie sets the alarm clock, she will never forget the time because of excitement. But the happy time is always short. At noon on the 3rd day, Wu Qingying arrives. Susie stood in front of the door, looking at Lu Ruyan waving goodbye behind him, but couldn't feel happy at all. When Lu Ruyan was eating just now, he suddenly vomited blood. At the same time, cracks appeared on his body, like a piece of glass covered with traces. Just touch it lightly and it will fall apart. Asked her what happened. She just shook her head, unwilling to speak. In the end, Susie was not allowed to serve her at home and spanked her. Seeing Susie's resolute expression, Lu Ruyan told him the matter. Susie never expected. On weekdays, Mr. Lu, who played with him and had a bright smile, endured the cruelty of his broken body all the time. I've said it all. My sister is fine and can last a few more years, so if you go to Xiaojudian, hurry back to accompany my sister. Why? My sister was already like this when she returned to Qinghai. It was an unexpected joy to meet your stinky brother in the last few years. My sister has no regrets. Okay, let's go. My sister is not going to die soon. Lu Ruyan smiled and gently kissed Susie on the face. Then pushed Susie out the door. My lord, Susie will be entrusted to you from now on. Lu Ruyan smiled at Wu Qingying, as if she was asking for help. Wu Qingying nodded. Susie is her apprentice, so she will naturally protect him. She wanted to say something, but finally glanced at Susie, pursed her lips and didn't say anything. Susie was silent, with a heavy heart, not knowing what he was thinking. In the end, he tightly embraced Lu Ruyan in his arms, felt her warmth, and whispered in his ear. Teacher, I won't let you die, you are not allowed to die. Wen Yan, Lu Ruyan smiled lightly, patted Susie's back lightly with her jade hand twice, and shook her head. The sisters from the Xiao family are nice, very moist. In the Tianzhou battle, pay attention to safety. If possible, I can help Xiao Wanqing that girl. She has a big ass and fixes the baby. Quote. Susie glared at her, but Lu Ruyan didn't care at all. Susie is gone. Lu Ruyan also returned to the rented house alone. She's about to quit her job. For the last period of time, in this small but cozy rental house. Waiting for Susie to come back. Void. Wu Qingying took Suzy to the battlefield where Xiaoju Tianzhao fought at a speed exceeding the speed of light. Don't be gloomy, it's not hopeless. Wu Qingying patted Suzy on the shoulder and said. From just now, Suzy has been sullen, as if someone owes him yuanjing. Suzy heard the words and looked at her. Wait for her to clarify. Okay, is it so difficult when you ask me? Wu Qingying curled her lips and said slowly. If you want to save your sister Ruyan, it's not difficult to say, but it's not easy to say. Since she was caused by the fragmentation of the core of the territory, it can only reshape the core of the Lord for her. Quote. Do you know what a Lord's core is made of? Lu Ruyan paused, and asked Suzy. AGDB, the origin of the world. Suzy thought about some of the knowledge that Ruyan Lu taught him before. That's right, the core of every Lord's territory is my human race's power to destroy the world and the universe. See, the universe. Only by collecting the origin of the world can we build it successfully. So you know why there are trials for newcomers, right? The purpose is to weed out some unqualified people. If you can't even pass the newbie test, it's better to be an ordinary person. And once the core of the territory is broken, it almost represents the death of the Lord. You must protect your territory. It is best not to let other people approach it except for your own people. Quote. Suzy nodded. He didn't tell Wu Qingying that the core of his territory has the nature of being indestructible. Even if it is shattered, it can return from nothingness. Your teacher Lu Ruyan, it seems that the Lord's core has been severely damaged, but it has not been completely broken. It means that there is still salvation. The best way to reshape the core of the Lord is to find a piece of the heart of the world. At that time, not only will her territory be reshaped, but the talent panel may also evolve. Heart of the world. Suzy's brain searched for information carefully, but found nothing. Don't think about it, only the gods are qualified to know about this thing. The information of other people is blocked. Wu Qingying continued. The heart of the world, as its name suggests, is the core of a world, but it is very difficult to gather the heart of the world. It often breaks 100, or even 1,000 worlds, and it is possible for a piece of the heart of the world to be condensed by chance. In the cosmic sea, the heart of the world is considered the top treasure. Even the gods flock to it. Because that thing can stabilize the kingdom of God and expand the domain of God. It has too much effect. Every time it appears, it will cause a battle among the gods. As Wu Qingying said, there was also a trace of longing in her eyes. After all, the size of the domain of the gods is related to the strength of the Lord God. Although she was lucky enough to fuse one, who would think too much of that stuff? Suzy frowned. Where can he get such a rare thing? But you're lucky, kid. A race of idiots actually took out a piece of the heart of the world in order to participate in the battle of the heavens. As she spoke, Wu Qingying lowered her head and winked at Suzy. Why do you think they want to participate in the battle of the little heavens? Suzy's face was dark, and she was speechless looking at her smiling face. It's not for me, is it? Wu Qingying nodded. That's right, it's for you. You are simply the sweet potato in the eyes of countless races. Everyone wants to eat you. Then a higher god was born for its race. Quote. As long as a high god is born, what is the heart of the world? For them, this is simply a bargain. Suzy sneered upon hearing this. That's really great. I'm worried that I don't have enough resources to become a god. As the number one in this little Zhu Tianzhao competition, you will get several priceless treasures including the heart of the world. So, apprentice, you have to work hard. We are here. Finished speaking, Wu Qingying took Suzy out of the subspace and landed on a huge star square. At this time, the square was already crowded with people. The moment Wu Qingying walked out, everyone's eyes looked over. Suzy glanced around, faintly felt many hostile sights. Chapter 70. Lori and Girls, Competition. See Your Majesty. Wu Qingying just appeared. The soldiers guarding the quartet and responsible for maintaining order at the scene knelt down on one knee to salute Wu Qingying. Wu Qingying nodded slightly, and walked to the main seat in front of the square, sweeping away the majesty without form on her body. Many contestant lords who were still discussing originally shut up. See Your Highness. After seeing Wu Qingying, all the soldiers paid homage to Suzy one after another. Suzy is Wu Qingying's only disciple, and they appropriately call him His Highness. Suzy glanced over indifferently, his eyes calm as usual. Walked towards an empty seat next to Wu Qingying. Looking down at the tens of millions of lords of all shapes and sizes below. He is the only rookie lord who is qualified to sit here among the tens of millions of lords participating in the Vermilion Bird. All the seats around are gods. There was a terrible aura all over his body. This should have been mine. Crowd. Han Li looked up at Suzy, who was sitting next to the main seat, and clenched his fists. He thinks that Suzy took away the trial number 1 that originally belonged to him. It was also because of this that he became the disciple of Lord Vermilion Bird. It was all his fault. After entering the Endless Continent, he must try Suzy's level to see if he is worthy to be His Royal Highness led by Vermilion Bird. It's not just him. There are many geniuses among the lords below, and there are inexplicable fluctuations in their expressions. He stared at Suzy, eager to try. I want to pull Suzy off the horse and get into that position myself. They don't think they are worse than Suzy. They just couldn't exert their combat power because of the trial mode. And they are different from the trials at this time. At this time, they have already obtained the help of the family behind them. Not only did he obtain precious buildings one by one, but he also developed the territory to the 9th level. The purpose is to compete with the powerhouses of various races in the small heavens. It can be said, for this battle of Xiaoju Tianzhao, the families behind them have invested heavily. The investment in them is unprecedented. Because of this Tianzhao battle. It matters a lot. Everyone wants to gain a reputation. That's Suzy. She looks good. He's a handsome guy, even more handsome than your fiancé Han Li, isn't he? Sister Yunur. In a corner of the square, a little loli dressed in black gothic and Lolita costumes raised her palm-sized feet and shouted excitedly. Next to it, is a young girl with eyes like water, who is as beautiful as a country, with a crescent head and brows, like a flower like a jade. The girl said little, clasped her hands together, and made every move, showing that everyone is a lady. Hear the words, comma. The girl curiously looked up at Suzy that the little loli was talking about, and was slightly taken aback. I saw the boy on the high platform. Dressed in white, he was born with the air of a king over the world, sitting among the gods without any confusion. His handsome facial features are carved out of marble, with sharp lines and sharp eyes. His complexion is cold, his temperament is outstanding. People can't help but praise, what a handsome and extraordinary young man. Such a person. He is also a disciple of Lord Vermilion Bird, and his identity is unrivaled in the leader of Vermilion Bird. One's own strength is the first in the trial. Girls think Suzy is really hateful. Let all the good things in the world be taken by him. This makes other men pale in comparison with him, unable to be compared. Xiao Wanqing's eyes were clear, and she exuded an icy aura of repelling others thousands of miles away. When seeing Suzy ascend to a high position, she bit her lip lightly and clenched her fists. Heart swear, he will definitely catch up with him, or not too far behind. When Wu Qingying arrives, foreshadowing the arrival of the participating lords of Vermilion Bird. Suzy was the last rookie lord who was personally picked up by Master Vermilion Bird, and everyone was actually waiting for him. When they take their seats, an old woman in a sacrificial robe came out, holding a simple scroll in her hand. She walked up to Wu Qingying, bowed slightly to her, and then turned to face all the participating lords. The 6075th session, Vermilion Bird leading the Tianzhao contest, officially changed to Xiaoju Tianzhao contest. This hegemony competition is jointly organized by the 3,600 eastern territories of the Shengxia Empire and the 367 great races of the heavens, the purpose of which is to cultivate the arrogance and monsters of all races. 0. Seeking flowers. This time there are 3.7 billion human race participants, and you will start a 3-month competition in the Endless Continent. The specific rules will not be described in detail here. This time may be the first time in your life, or the last time you have the chance to become a god. I hope you will seize the opportunity. At last, may you return with honor. The gods are here to congratulate you. Voice just fell. A huge vortex appeared in the sky, pulling the contestants into it. I will find you and kill you. Han Li glared at Suzy, remembering Suzy's face deeply. They will always meet in the Endless Continent. Suzy, let's see how I beat you this time. If you dare to steal my house, I will let my rabbit eat all the plants in your house. Humph. The little dark loli waved her fists, and licked her pink tongue towards Suzy. Let's go. With his reputation, it won't be long before we meet again. The girl at the side took little Lolita's hand and walked into the whirlpool. Master, I'm leaving. Suzy got up, and the surrounding gods looked over one after another. But Suzy's complexion didn't change, only Wu Qingying was in his eyes. Well, just kill me after you go in, I'll give you the bottom line. Wu Qingying said calmly, The tone was calm, but the meaning in the words made the expressions of the people below change. This sentence is for Suzy, and it is also for them. After all, they all have children and grandchildren who participated in the Tianzhou War. Thank you, Master. Suzy clasped his fist slightly and suddenly paused. Because he heard the sound transmission from Wu Qingying. Kill anyone outside at will, but we are led by Vermilion Bird, so you can help if you can. Suzy nodded slightly, then flew into the vortex and disappeared. Phew, the Tianzhou battle is very lively now, and those races who sent their seeds to participate in the competition will probably regret it to death. Wu Qingying watched Suzy leave, with a hint of ridicule flashing in her eyes. It would be a big mistake to really think of Suzy as a little sheep at his mercy. He is a ruthless beggar who dares to kill even the superior Shendu. Chapter 71. Void Platform, Affiliated Races, Rabbitman. I don't know how much time has passed. When the sense of weightlessness disappeared, Suzy found himself standing on a huge void platform. Where is this? Suzy looked around. I found that the huge platform I was on was located in a void. A huge meteorite flew across the sky from time to time. The outside of the platform was extremely dark, and inexplicable air currents surged from time to time. In the distance is a group of ragged orcs of various races. From time to time, light flashed by the side, and figures emerged with bewildered faces. Where is this? Aren't we participating in the Xiaojudian contest? Where is this? I'm from Qinglongling. Who knows where we are now? I'll be rewarded later. Could it be teleported to the wrong place? 003. These people, like Suzy, are all participants in the Xiaoju Tianzhou competition. They thought they would directly enter the Endless Continent, but unexpectedly they were teleported here. Lords, don't worry, let us explain to you lords. Suddenly, an old man's voice suddenly came from beside him. As he spoke, an old turtle with green hair walked up to the crowd leaning on a cane. Turtle people. The information of this race appeared in Suzy's mind. Turtle people belong to a kind of orcs, and they have always been known for their longevity and defense. Old Turtle stepped forward, bowed to all the lords, and then said slowly, My lords, before entering the Endless Continent, you need to choose a subordinate race. They will provide service and the power of faith to the lords. At the same time, it accelerates the cohesion of the source point, allowing the lords to step on the road to becoming a god faster. Quote. Wen Yan. Suzy nodded. 3 conditions for becoming a god. First, enough source crystals and source points are needed to turn the territory into a kingdom. The larger the territory, the more it will be consumed. Second, it is necessary to burn faith and condense the godhead. If someone chooses to use the existing godhead, they need to use their own power of faith to wash away the remnants of the gods inside. Third, you need to find a treasure that can suppress the kingdom of God, otherwise the newborn god will be unstable. Among them, the source crystal and the source point need the territory to absorb the power of the other world to condense. Faith, on the other hand, depends on the people. Let them visit the core of the Lord day and night to gather the power of faith. The more subjects there are, the firmer and purer the faith, the faster the speed of cohesion of faith will be. Then want to gain more people and faith. The only way is to grab it. Suzy thinks this is the core. The eyes of the other lords flickered, obviously wanting to understand the key. Suddenly, there was a trace of hostility in the eyes of the lords who looked around. Lords, the choice of affiliated races is two-way. When you choose affiliated races, they also have the right to choose whether to follow. The old turtle continued. Everyone nodded, as it should be. Whoever is stronger will get a better race. My unit template is Flaming Pegasus, purple quality. It is powerful and can protect you and so on. As soon as the old turtle finished speaking, a lord immediately revealed his own information. Many orc races around looked at him one after another, and their hearts were moved. The purple quality is already top-notch. Seeing this, the others also learned something. My troop template. Frost Titan, purple quality, unparalleled strength. My unit template. Red Dragon, purple quality, I want to come with me quickly. My arms. The lords fought each other and shouted to the surroundings. Suzy found that these people's troop templates are actually pretty good. Except for a very rare green, the rest are blue and purple. Sure enough, those who can pass this newcomer test have a few brushes. Brother, we finished talking about our troop template, why didn't you say it? A fat man next to him touched Suzy's arm and asked. Everyone also looked at Suzy after hearing the news, and the orcs who hadn't yet chosen a lord also looked at it. Department of Plants. Susie is concise and to the point. What? Botany. How did you pass this year's newcomer test? Which leader's test is so simple? Can you even pass the plant? When someone heard this, they instantly showed disdain for Susie. Ha ha ha, now even the plant department dares to enter the battle of Xiaoju Tianzhao. It's really weird. You'd better go home quickly. This is not the place where the plant department should come. That's right, the plant department doesn't even have any attack power. Wouldn't you die if you went in? The surrounding lords laughed one after another. Susie glanced at them coldly. I want to let them know how powerful plants are. But just raised my hand. A message appeared in front of Susie. Warning. Hands are not allowed on the void platform, and those who do it will be expelled from the Tianzhao competition. Susie frowned, but still put down his hand and took note of the appearance of several people. Let them have a deep understanding of the power of the plant system when they have a chance in the future. The other orcs shook their heads when they heard that Susie was of the plant department, and then walked towards their favorite lord. There was an orc or two before the lord. But in front of those purple quality lords, there were more than a dozen of them, and they were even blushing. Excuse me, can you be our lord? 5.4 inches. Just when Susie was about to leave, and wait until the endless continent to snatch a few races as affiliations. A muffled voice came. Susie looked down. A bunny girl dressed in rags, with only a gray short sleeve barely covering her body, appeared in front of Susie. Her face was flushed from the cold, and there was a bit of fear in her eyes, but she still bravely asked forward. Why me? Susie wondered. Rabbit people, there should be few lords who have unique sexual fetishes, right? Because, the little bunny girl said and lowered her head. Because he is also unwanted just like them. But this obviously cannot be said to the lord. Chapter 72. My name is Susie, and I'm here to fight. Forget it, it's all the same, it's just you. Susie looked at her pitifully, so he said directly to the girl. What? The bunny girl couldn't believe it, but Susie agreed so easily, and stared at Susie with wide eyes. Let's go to your clan land. Susie didn't want to waste time here, and directly took her little hand and walked towards the bronze portal not far away. In front of the bronze door, the old man of the turtle tribe sat at a wooden table, recording the races chosen by the lords. Seeing Susie coming with the little bunny girl, he was a little surprised, but said immediately. My lord, I wonder if you know the current situation of the rabbit people. Have no idea. Susie shook his head, not caring about it at all. He didn't come here to engage in sophistication, but to fight and kill. With his strength, he will definitely have what others have, and he will still have what others don't have. The previous lord of their rabbit human tribe just died, and now there are only a few nurses and disabled children left in this tribe. Moreover, their territory is very desolate, and they can barely be regarded as ordinary. They are not worthy of you, my lord. Every time the old man said a word, the head of the rabbit human girl lowered a little, and in the end her chin almost sank into her chest the size of a steamed bun. The little hand that was holding Susie also wanted to pull it out, but was pulled by Susie and couldn't move it. It's them, Susie insisted, unwilling to change. Other races probably wouldn't choose him either. Okay, then I will record it for you. Once recorded, it cannot be replaced. The old turtle shook his head, but he couldn't persuade him, so he had to give up. He thought Susie would regret it. A barren place. The speed of birthing the source point will be much slower than those at the core of the world. Brother, just now you said that you are from the Department of Plants. I don't know your name. Make friends. At this time, the fat man who was beside Susie just now suddenly leaned over to Susie and extended his right hand to Susie. Susie looked each other up and down. The fat man was a little nervous, but his round face was tense at the moment, but he was a little nervous. He didn't know if his guess was right. Susie. Susie briefly shook hands with him, then turned around and led the bunny girl into the portal. Susie, he is Su Luo. After Susie left, the fat man froze for 2 seconds, then suddenly jumped 3 feet high in surprise. This scene aroused the curiosity of the surrounding lords. Someone came over and patted him and asked. Brother, isn't he? Why are you so excited? I thought you saw someone. Hee, I'll give you some hints. The fat man twitched the corner of his mouth, smiled at the man twice, and then took 2 steps back to distance himself. Leader Vermilion Bird, Master Vermilion Bird's disciple, isn't he Susie of the plant department? After speaking, the fat man took the dwarves he had chosen, and walked quickly into the teleportation array. Vermilion bird collar, Suzy. Suddenly, someone yelled. As if remembering something. FK, he is Suzy. Isn't he too low-key? Damn, I seem to have mocked him just now. He won't kill me, will he? Gudong, I seem to have said the wrong thing just now. It's over, I offended a ruthless person before entering Xiaozudian. What should I do? Fortunately, I didn't say anything just now. The lords wanted to slap themselves twice with their hands and make themselves feel cheap. This made the surrounding orcs a little suspicious. Wasn't that plant type just now? He has no attack power, so why is he so scared? That person is the #1 leader in the Vermilion Bird trial, and he is also the disciple of Lord Vermilion Bird. It is rumored that he killed a high god with his ungodly body. What do you mean this kind of person is not a ruthless person? Also, I heard that many races in the Little Heavens came for him this time. It can be said that he is the hottest big shot in the eastern region of Shenxia today. Quote. Someone explained to the surrounding. The void platform was quiet for a few seconds. Then there was the regretful sound of the orcs beating their chests and stomping their feet. Such a powerful person. If they can invite the Wei people, wouldn't they have the opportunity to establish a country and proclaim themselves emperor? But it was too late. I didn't expect that adult to be so powerful. The old turtle man who made the record was stunned, and let out a sigh. I'm old, and I can't see people well. Endless continent. It is a place where several god emperors, dozens of god kings, and tens of thousands of upper gods from various races personally created the Tianzhao's trial place. With the endless continent in the center as the core, thousands of small worlds are integrated into its surroundings to create a small heaven. There are not only the arrogance of various races from the universe C, but also some natives who are already in these worlds. For example, Terran, Orc, Elf, Goblin, Dragon and so on. The initial region divided by the human race is in the endless continent. Numerous indigenous races rely on the protection of the human lords to survive. Both have what they need. The lords gained faith through the natives and received their hardworking services, allowing them to focus on war. The Aborigines rely on labor to obtain food and safety from the lord's reward. At this time, on a 430 remote wilderness in the southeast corner of the endless continent, a group of ragged old rabbitmen and children stood on an ancient altar one by one, looking forward to it. They hoped their patriarch would bring back a lord. Although they know that this possibility is unlikely. Grandpa, is there any lord willing to come to our place? A child of 1 or 2 years old asked while holding the hand of an elderly man. Yes, I will. A smile appeared on the old man's wrinkled face. The Lord, can we have enough to eat? I'm hungry. The little baby couldn't help but said while clutching his growling stomach. Definitely. The Lord will lead everyone to live a good life. The old man comforted. The child's mother was ordered to go to the battlefield by the previous Lord as soon as she was born. In the end, the Lord died, and everyone who went there never came back. Of the entire Rabbitman tribe, there are only people like them who have broken the wreckage. No Lord will come here. Suddenly, the light on the altar flashed, and 2 figures, one small and one small, appeared in front of everyone. Lord, we have a Lord. When the child saw Suzy for the first time, he shouted excitedly. Really the Lord? The old man couldn't believe it. Chapter 73. Territory comes, Zerg plots. Congratulations, you have successfully landed on the endless continent. The world channel has been opened, the regional channel has been opened, the current area, Dashi Desert. Wish you reach the top of endless continent. As soon as it arrived, a series of reminders came to Suzy's mind. Regardless for now, Suzy looked around. Seeing him coming, dozens of old, weak, sick and disabled rabbitmen knelt and bowed excitedly, shouting, Lord, in surprise. They are probably the little girl's people. Compared with them, the little girl belongs to the only young adults. Master Suzy. You really won't leave us behind. The little bunny girl who was held by Suzy looked a little blushing and a little scared, looking at Suzy from time to time. Worried that he would not want to stay in this desolate place. Won't. Suzy shook his head. Surrounded by yellow sand and deserted, there are a few small thatched houses that are about to be blown down at any time not far away. The living conditions are very difficult and harsh. These rabbit people are also all yellow and thin, looking like they haven't eaten for a few days. Seeing that there was no disdain or discrimination in Suzy's eyes, the human girl was relieved. As long as Suzy doesn't leave, she can do anything. Suzy let go of her hand and asked, What's your name? Chi-Chi, I am the seventh eldest child in my family, everyone calls me Chi-Chi. The little girl said quickly. Chi-Chi. Suzy nodded. She really can have children in her family. You let your people stand up. I don't like this. Suzy pointed to those young and old who kept kneeling on the ground. Yes. Chi-Chi quickly ran down the altar, said something to them, and then they gradually stood up. There are a few old people. Suzy is really afraid that they will be blown down by the wind. Down the altar, Suzy then prepared to move the territory over. If you want to obtain source crystals and source points in another world, the most basic thing is to rely on the cohesion of your own territory. After explaining to them, Suzy stood in place and began to summon the territory to descend. Chi-Chi, what department is our lord from? An old rabbitman asked curiously. This, the lord is G, the plant department. Chi-Chi scratched her cute chin in embarrassment. What, plant department? It's over. I'm afraid our lord's territory is only the lowest level territory. The plant department has no fighting power. What if the wolves from outside invade? One by one the rabbits whispered to each other, full of worries about the future. They learned some basic information from the last lord who died. Know that Flora is the weakest of all flora. It's okay, there will be a way. Chi-Chi comforted softly, although she didn't know what to do. But she is the patriarch elected by everyone, so she has to be responsible for them. There is a pack of wild wolves on the wasteland, each of them is as strong as a cow, bloody and brutal, and many of their clansmen have been eaten by them. I originally thought that I could rely on the Lord to drive away those monsters, but I didn't expect that their Lord turned out to be a plant type. Suzy didn't know what they were muttering, and a reminder sound appeared in front of his eyes. Will the territory come here? Once it comes, it is not allowed to change within 3 months. Yes. Next moment, all the rabbitmen saw the most unforgettable scene in their life. In the sky, colorful divine lights enveloped hundreds of thousands of square meters around. All the rabbitmen who were pierced by the strong light closed their eyes. When the light fades, they looked around, their eyes widened in disbelief. The green lawn is covered with all kinds of exotic flowers and plants. There are spiritual fields all around, and precious spiritual plants that they have never heard of are planted on them. The aura seemed to be very active in the air, and the old people felt a little younger just by taking a few breaths. The exquisite attic buildings in the distance are like palaces in the sky, dreamlike and unreal. The towering defense towers filled them with an unprecedented sense of security. City wall, each of the cannons with strange shapes, with their heads held high and their chests held high, has a murderous look on them, and it can be seen that they have been killed for a long time. At the core is a big tree tens of thousands of meters high. The tree is hazy, and the specific shape cannot be seen clearly. But with a close look, they have a sense of the earth. Under it, there are springs gushing and steaming in the hot springs, like a fairyland. In the pond, golden little fish jumped out of the water actively. Sitting next to her was a stunningly beautiful woman who looked like a fairy in the dust. Just taking a look at it, I feel that it is not redeemable. Gudong. Someone couldn't help swallowing. Is this a fairyland? Chi-Chi's eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. Is this really the weakest plant type that the previous lord said? Endless Continent World Channel. A piece of news suddenly spread crazily in Xiaozudian. Suzy is here. The little heavens are going to be lively now, and those bugs of the Zerg have been waiting for him to come. I heard that as long as you eat him, you can get its powerful talent, and even the upper Shendu can't do anything about him. I'm a little moved. Backquote, hee, there are many high gods staring at it. If you are not afraid of death, you can try the human race and tolerate you. I heard that not only the Zerg, but even the demon race and several other races that don't deal with my human race want to have a taste of Suzy. They will do it soon. Is there anyone in the team to watch the battle? Zerg world. In a supreme and splendid palace, hundreds of Ninth Order Zerg empresses gathered here. They are the arrogance of the Zerg specially sent to hunt down the lords of the plant department of the race. But they were all silent at this moment. Suddenly, the 3 vacant seats on the main seat trembled slightly, and 3 figures appeared on the seats. Their breath is as deep as the sea. They are both at the 9th level, but the hundreds of Zerg mother queens below are terrified. They are Zerg seed level geniuses. A generation of evildoers who claim to have the talent to become a high god. In the entire Zerg race, there may not necessarily be a few Zerg seed level evildoers in a generation, but at this moment there are 3 at a time. Wow, good. It can be seen that the Zerg must kill Suzy. Found it. Where is he? The Zerg in red armor on the right asked first. My lord, according to the information we got from the human race, the plant lord is located in a remote corner in the southeast corner of the endless continent. A Zerg empress responded to Joe. Oh, how could he choose such a desolate place when he is so powerful? The green Zerg on the left is puzzled. It's rumored that he fell in love with the patriarch of the Rabbitman clan. That's why he didn't hesitate to land in that desolate place. It turned out to be a womanizer, so can we use beauty tricks to seduce him? According to rumors, Irina, the number one beauty of the Zerg race tens of thousands of years ago, took advantage of her unpreparedness and swallowed the plant lord. Hearing this, many Zerg empresses looked at the beautiful human image they transformed into, and they felt that it was possible. The cyan figure on the main seat, eyes flickering, I don't know what to think. Chapter 73. Zerg Action, Gathering of Heroes, Planning to Become a God. No, using a beauty trap at the beginning will not only make him suspicious, but also shame his Zerg race. The flushed Zerg who spoke first shook his head. As soon as these words came out, everyone remembered. Their every move now is being monitored by the gods and gods aloft. Somewhere in the void, the expressions of many Zerg upper gods remained unchanged, but their spiritual thoughts were communicating crazily. Obviously just heard something. Irina, she thought she had completely buried the news, but unexpectedly, it was exposed in front of the gods by a group of juniors. But after thinking about it, she didn't care. No matter what method she used, she succeeded. Now she is already a high god, and she is even about to hit the realm of the God King. Even if you know, who dares to talk nonsense? Then we will play a game, and I will personally lead the team and set up a net. Block the void of that human race, making it impossible to hide. After that, take 10 artifacts and attack them. I don't believe his territory is really unbreakable. 300. Red Zerg's categorical way. If it doesn't work, we will implement the second plan. As soon as this remark came out, many Zerg thought for a moment and felt that it was feasible. For the plant system, their Zergs carried dozens of artifacts. First use 10 pieces to test it out. Very steady. In line with Zerg combat style. After that, many Zerg discussed the details again. Suzy he landed in the southeast. Han Li, who had just landed on the endless continent, looked at the information on the world channel, his eyes lit up, and a ray of light appeared. His location is located in the center of the east of the continent. Using the teleportation array, you can reach the southeast of the mainland in a few days at most. Suzy, I want to see how your strength compares to the rumors. As he said that, Han Li directly summoned a gigantic golden behemoth over 1,000 meters long. With a flash, Han Li appeared on top of golden behemoth. Next moment, legend has it that the golden behemoth, a kind of soldier Ache, rushed towards the southeast with strides like a pillar of heaven. He wants Lord Vermilion Bird, who is watching, to see. Han Li can become His Royal Highness of Vermilion Bird. Suzy, he is not worthy. Sister Ynur, Suzy showed up and chose a place where nothing shit happens. Do you think he is stupid? The little dark lily by Mengmeng stood on a grassland and said to the girl beside her, Chu Yuyan. They landed on the steppe, and the subordinate race is the centaur. The tribe is large and powerful in itself. So the two of them are very relaxed. Chu Yuyan shook her head. I was also guessing why Suzy chose the rabbit race. Is it really because of those cute bunny ears? Do men like that? She doesn't quite understand, but she decided to go and have a look. At the same time, in front of a dwarf tribe not far to the southeast of the mainland, a huge fat man laughed loudly. Brother, we are really destined. Our distance is so close, God's will. I will go to you right away. As he said that, Fatty Wong took his subordinate dwarves to carry out a collective migration. Because of the arrival of Suzy, the entire endless continent and hundreds of races from the heavens are all moved by the news. Some races want to win over Suzy, and some race lords want to accept him as a subordinate lord. Some races are afraid that he will grow up, and they will definitely put him to death in the Tianzhou competition. But Suzy is not worried about all this. Even some expectations. He is worried that there are not enough affiliated races. Master, you are finally here, the goblin misses you to death. Let's continue fighting. The little fairy put her arms around Suzy's shoulders, and pressed her body close to Suzy's chest. Her small nose sniffed Suzy's body from time to time, and then she showed intoxicated eyes. Chi-Chi, who had just thought that the little goblin was a fairy who could not eat fireworks, froze in place. Man, how can a man do this? The little girl blushed, and looked at this scene in disbelief. The two rabbits were tightly attached to her head, without any strength. Parents say girls shouldn't be reserved. Human race. Are human races so slutty? Okay, good boy, I have something to do now, let's play in the evening. Susie patted the little fairy's buttocks. The little goblin immediately got off Susie knowingly, and stood quietly aside, instantly turning into a goddess with aloof temperament. Seeing that Chi-Chi was stunned. Hey, here's a little sister. Suddenly, the goblin seemed to have discovered some interesting toy, walked up to Chi-Chi, pulled her into her arms and rubbed her ears. Little Chi-Chi blushed. I don't know if it's because of embarrassment, or because my head is stuffed on the little fairy's chest. Go, sister will take you to change into nice clothes. Seeing that Chi-Chi was wearing a tattered gray shirt, the little goblin frowned slightly, pulled Chi-Chi and rushed towards the lord's mansion. No matter how pitifully begging his Chi-Chi, Susie came to the world tree after explaining some things to the rabbitman. Now, he has entered the 9th step. Among the thousands of top clans in the universe C, the 9th rank has another title. That is a demigod. Only a life that already has a trace of the powerful strength of a god can be called a demigod. To become a demigod, one must plan the way to become a god. Yuanjing and Yuandian, these two things are a bit troublesome. Suzy frowned. His territory is too big, and he wants to transform the source crystal and the source point into the kingdom of God. The required source crystals and source points are astronomical. And if you want to obtain source points and source crystals in the small heavens, you can only rely on the transformation of the territory. He needs to take a look at the current efficiency of the territory to absorb source points and source crystals. If not, then there is no other way to think about it. Chapter 74. Consolidating Faith, a war letter from the Zerg. Go under the world tree. A set of information emerged in front of my eyes. www. Territory. Natural territory. Affiliation. Suzy. Grade. 88. Area. 4,000 square kilometers. Architecture. Watching pool, city lord's mansion, pond, fan building. Transformation. 4,000 source crystals per day, 400 source crystals per day. Resident. 35. Power of faith. 5 wisps day. Level 88. The 9th tier territory. The territory has an area of 4,000 square kilometers, and the area is already comparable to a large city, far exceeding that of ordinary 9th tier lords. The buildings are basically complete, but their due value has not yet been developed, and they need to go to the 10 main cities. At that time, there will be more ways to earn source crystals. Now the territory can generate 4,000 source crystals and 400 source points every day. Compared with other lords who generate dozens of source crystals and several source points every day, my speed is enough to make them envious. Suzy pondered, but he was not satisfied in his heart. Becoming a god at level 100. His territory has not yet reached the full level, and a large number of source crystals and source points are needed to fill it. Still have to make money. In the Little Heavens battlefield, every 7 days they are forced to participate in a killing feast in the Little Heavens battlefield. There is a good place to get source points and source crystals. As long as the strength is strong enough, more source crystals and source points can be obtained. Suzy thought about it. There are mainly 3 channels for obtaining source crystals and source points. Territory wins instability, and people still need people to operate in business, but it can flow smoothly. The main source of obtaining the source point must be on the battlefield. The more you kill, the more you earn. This is Suzy's favorite no-cost business. But now we need a stable rear. After stabilizing in the endless continent, the road to conquest can begin. The cohesion of the Godhead requires faith, but now only 5 wisps of power of faith can be produced every day. In order to achieve the degree of condensing the Godhead, the number required by each lord is different. The more beliefs, the better. Don't give up. This is destined to be a process that takes a long time to accumulate. Fortunately, Suzy never placed his hope on the rabbit people. Enter the Hall of Valor and invest 500 source crystals. Soon a Zerg figure gradually gathered. Am I not dead? Alice looked down at her restored body and said in surprise. Yes, you are dead, but I brought you back to life. Suzy stood in the void, overlooking the tomb of the Zerg mother who was fortunate to be his subordinate. Heard. Alice looked up. She saw the figure that frightened her again. This human race is too scary. Even if she dies, she can be resurrected. Can you make it smaller? If Alice's 6th level body was bigger, he felt that Hall of Valor might not be able to accommodate her. Not yet. Seeing the contempt and disgust in Suzy's eyes, Alice lowered her head sadly. Now she just stands beside Suzy, and she can feel the terrifying power emanating from him. The gap between them is now like the difference between heaven and earth. Suzy progressed too fast. She is still at the 6th level, and she feels that the opponent's aura is far inferior to that of the 8th level Highness Emma. So he might be rank 9 now. Alice felt desperate just thinking about it. I am afraid that there will be no chance to catch up in this life. You make some soldiers and insects, I will do some experiments. Suzy said. He wants to try. Can Zerg provide faith, if possible? Then he has a bold idea. Alice didn't dare to refuse, after deliberating for a while, in front of Suzy. A batch of hundreds of huge eggshells with mucus is produced. Soon, the eggshells were broken one by one, and low-level soldiers and insects of various shapes came out of them. There are dark mantises, sawtooth centipedes. There are also various poisonous insects with ferocious giant teeth. With a wave of his hand, Suzy brought Alice and all the bug soldiers to the world tree. Let them pray facing the big tree. Suzy gave Alice an order. Yes, master. Alice actively obeyed the arrangement, and all the insect soldiers listened to Alice's order and prayed to the big tree. Suzy opened the panel again. Territory. Natural territory. Resident. 147. 0. Seeking flowers. Power of faith. 10 strands per day. When you see that the power of faith becomes 10 strands per day. Suzy's eyes lit up. It's really possible, although the faith produced by hundreds of insect soldiers is similar to that of dozens of rabbit people. But it can't stand the Zerg, it's easy to manufacture, and the quantity is large. Moreover, it completely obeys the orders of the Zerg Mother Queen, which is easy to manage. He can absolutely capture a group of Zerg empresses and let them desperately produce Zerg soldiers. Then let the insect soldiers become the subjects of the territory. Wouldn't he be able to harvest a large amount of power of faith soon? Suzy felt that his idea was right. So he desperately wants more Zerg Mother Emperors to condense the calendar of faith. Thinking, Suzy turned on the World Channel. 0. Trying to find some Zerg info on World Channel. As a result, Suzy chuckled when he saw the news just now. Inside information, the location of Boss Suzy has been found, located near the rabbit people in the southeast of the Endless Continent. I heard that the Zerg race is going to send a seated highness to lead a team, hundreds of 9th level Zerg queens, and 10 artifacts to besiege Suzy. Suzy may be doomed. Not necessarily. His Royal Highness Suzy is also a ruthless person, maybe he is waiting for the Zerg to come to his door. I'm afraid this is the first time since Xiao Zudian's arrogant battle started, it's so lively. FK, Zerg Seed Level Highness Talina has blatantly challenged Suzy. Have you organized a group to see it? I kind of want to know if Mr. Suzy dares to take up the challenge. It's better not to go, we can just watch the live broadcast outside the venue. If we are involved, we don't know how to die. The Zerg have challenged our human lord, will In's fight? I don't know, is the Zerg really him? Shameless, he came to participate in the Tianjiao battle, and he brought dozens of artifacts. What a bilk MN. I'm used to it, they're not shameless anymore. Suzy looked at the news on the World Channel, constantly refreshing. I want to laugh in my heart. He was looking for them, but the Zerg was also looking for him. He also issued a letter of challenge to him. Is this the so-called two-way running? After Suzy noted his name on World Channel. Send the word, challenge. Chapter 75th. 3 Supreme Heroic Units. Plant Caller Suzy, challenge. The 2 words did not cause much disturbance when they were first sent out. But then it was discovered. Damn it, Boss Suzy really took up the challenge. I don't know what the ending will be. The Zerg sent one of the 3 seed level talents this time. I don't know how Suzy wants to fight against him. Which big guy can start a live broadcast? I want to see the figure of big guy Suzy. I heard that the Zerg is very well prepared this time, which may prevent Suzy's talent from being effective. It's a bit of a mystery, I don't know who will win this time. On the World Channel, almost unanimously became the news discussing this war. After Suzy took a few glances at 010, he stopped paying attention. For him, it's all he wants. Palm flip. 3 hero summoning tokens appeared in Suzy's hands. Looking at the 3 hero summoning orders in his hand, Suzy fell into deep thought. Now that he has reached the 9th level, he needs to prepare for the combat power after becoming a god. The power of the gods. Take a look at the size and stability of God's domain. Second look, it belongs to God. From the 1st to the 9th level, the training of arms is transferred to the training of heroes of the corresponding system. For example, Xiaoju, the body of 9-leaf sword grass, is very likely to become a sword god. Be an ace in Su Zi's hands. For example, the little goblin, although the little goblin has only been nourished to the 6th level by Su Zi now, there is still a long way to go before becoming a god. But no one can deny. She is Su Zi's hero unit, which means she has the potential to become a god in the future. Auxiliaries are mostly late-stage careers, once turned into a god. The little goblin will become the nanny of Su Zi's team in an instant, and her strategic position is very important. I don't know what 3 heroes can be summoned this time. Su Zi was a little curious. The first time a little goblin was summoned, and the second time it was Xiaoju. Call 3 directly this time. It means that Su Zi's big family will expand again. Lightly toss the 3 bronze tokens into the air. At the same time, 300 prismatic source crystals were turned into streamers and merged into a token. The 3 tokens were released and began to spin rapidly, and at the same time emitted colorful auspicious lights, which were extremely sacred. Su Zi watched quietly, with anticipation in his heart. Soon, the answer is revealed. The first one to walk out of the token was a round-headed, white-haired Requiem dandelion. The second one that revealed its figure was an emerald green spirit willow that was a meter high. The third thing that emerges from the rays of light is spiky moss covered with hardened spikes. Su Zi did not check their information directly. Instead, use the talent alienation on them. The 3 are once again wrapped in light. When the light dissipated, the 3 had already changed drastically. Identification. Su Zi uses identification on the 3, and the information of the 3 emerges. First up is the dandelion. Magic cat tree. Race. Plant. Quality. Supreme. Grade 1. Talent. Bloodlust. Soul devourer. Spirit devourer. Constitution. 100. Agility. 200. 150. Skill. Cursed demon flock unique contaminated can suck its blood, soul, and spiritual power for self-growth. Growth stage. Nascent stage. Loyalty. 100% permanent. Introduction. Maybe you created a demon. Shen Lu. Race. Plant. Quality. Supreme. Grade 1. Talent. 3000 worlds. Constitution. 300. Agility. 600. 700. Skills. Purification. Everyone who is purified is my believer. Deadly lancet. 1000 leaves. 10,000 swords. Lu Yifei knife. No bullets. Source of life. Life and death. Flesh and bones. Inverse reincarnation. Growth stage. Nascent stage. Loyalty. 100% permanent. Introduction. There are 3000 worlds in the body. Each additional race, the power will be stronger. Parasitic spore. Race. Plant. Quality. Supreme. Grade 1. Constitution. 50. Agility. 70. 1000. Skills. Infinite proliferation. Unlimited copying of individuals. Parasitic. Controlling its spirit. Manipulating all its skills, weapons, experience. Growth stage. Nascent stage. Loyalty. 100% permanent. Introduction. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine. FK. It's taking off. Su Zi looked at the attributes of the 3 heroes, and his breathing became a little short, obviously shocked by the attributes of the 3 heroes. The devil tree relies on the cursed catkins to feed itself with all life, no wonder it is called the devil tree. 3 talents, 1 unique skill. I don't know how terrifying the surrounding trees will be in the future. Quote. Su Zi swallowed and continued to read. Shenliu, at the first level, all attributes have exploded. Unlike the advanced forms of other races, the body is actually pregnant with 3000 worlds. All purified lives will become its believers, worship them, and turn them into the source of power for the willow. Quote. This will definitely confuse countless people on the battlefield. Su Zi can even imagine the scene where Shenliu uses purification to purify all the enemies into his own people in future battles from 4.3. The most powerful of the last parasitic spores is the spiritual force. The initial spirit is as high as 1000, which can be called against the sky. With unlimited proliferation and parasitic skills, it is definitely a big killer on the battlefield. After reading it, Su Zi was amazed. The 3 hero arms are all top-level kings in control, and their strength is terrifying. It can definitely kill the enemy with fear. Possessing such 3 superior talented heroes, he is like a tiger with wings added. Su Zi can't help looking forward to those races who want to hunt him down. Fewer came, and Su Zi was worried that it would not be enough to kill his own plants. Chapter 76. bathing in watching pool, Chi-Chi's shyness. Evening. In watching pool, the water is hazy and the lingering smoke is vast. Pool. The little goblin and Chi-Chi sit opposite each other. Chi-Chi threw her whole body into the water. Her face was flushed. She was a little shy. She had never soaked in a hot spring like this. She was a little shy, and buried most of her head in the hot spring. Bubbles of different sizes spit out from the small mouth from time to time, which is extremely cute. With big bright eyes, she peeked at the graceful figure of the fairy sister from time to time, and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Fairy sister is so beautiful, even a girl can't help but peep at her. Delicate white skin like jade reveals faint fluorescence, hibiscus-like face and willow-like eyebrows. Jade bowl chest, chu willow waist, soft ye hands. Jade lotus root legs, exquisite feet. Everywhere on his body exudes extreme temptation. In particular, the trace of a mature young woman's style revealed in the gestures of raising hands and feet is even more charming. Oh 6 Look down at yourself again. It seems that it is only slightly better on the 2 snow-white peaks. The rest are out of reach. Compared with elder sister fairy, she is just like a little maid. There are only peerless beauties like fairy sister. Will it make the Lord love it so much? Thinking so, Chi-Chi didn't check for a while, and drank 2 mouthfuls of hot spring water. Ahem. Chi-Chi choked and coughed. What is Chi-Chi thinking? The little goblin's jade legs stepped lightly, and she had already reached the shoulder. She could see that Chi-Chi had something on her mind, so she stared at her from time to time. For the little girl Chi-Chi, she still likes it very much. On weekdays, there are only her and Suzy in the territory, and Suzy is busy with time, so she can only watch Xiaoju practice sword. Now that Chi-Chi is here, she also has one more person who can talk. Nothing. Chi-Chi shook her head, not daring to speak out. How is it? Is the master's territory okay? Seeing that she didn't talk, and the little goblin didn't ask, she changed the subject. It's like a fairyland. This is a place I couldn't even imagine before. As soon as the little goblin mentioned the territory, Chi-Chi felt that there was nothing to say. Today, under the leadership of Elder Sister Fairy, she visited all the buildings in the territory. The super huge world tree is covered with green shade. The buildings of the city lord's mansion are exquisite, and each building is extremely exquisite. Fan Lu, which is full of delicacies from all over the world, can't help but linger after she eats it. The food inside was so delicious that her taste buds seemed to be exploding. If she couldn't eat it, she didn't want to leave. A wonderful pond where small fish can be turned into treasures. Under the leadership of the fairy sister, she successfully got a women's dress. It is as thin as sand, delicate and silky, making people fondle admiringly. Elder sister Gu Fairy said, "This is JK." After finishing speaking, he handed her a pair of white socks and asked her to put them on later to show the Lord. Everything is so good here. Well, she thought it was a dream. Worried about waking up from the dream and nothing will be there. But she patted her red oval face, and it seemed to be true again. Originally on the void platform, she just saw that no one wanted Suzy in her territory, so she tried to ask. I had planned to be rejected. But who knows that Suzy actually agreed. And it brought such a huge change to the territory just after arriving. Not only did every clansman put on new clothes, but they also had exquisite food that only those big clans could eat in the past, but now they can eat all they want. This is a life they never imagined before. She knows all this is given by Suzy. So she wants to help Suzy wholeheartedly, so that she has some value and won't be thrown out by the Lord. But one day passed, and she couldn't find a place where she could help the Lord. The Lord's territory is too perfect, so perfect that she has no way to start. Sister Fairy, I want to do something for the territory, is there anything I can do? Chi-Chi's voice was sweet, and she looked at the little fairy with her big eyes. The little demon looked Chi-Chi up and down with her beautiful eyes. In the end, her gaze stayed on the twin peaks that made her amazed. Feeling in my heart, God closed a door for her height, but opened a good window on her chest. How can a person be so small but have such big boobs? I'm afraid the Lord can't grasp it with both hands. With the Lord's love for breasts, I'm afraid Chi-Chi will please the master very much. Chi-Chi blushed when she was watched by the little goblin. She lowered her eyebrows and nodded. Your Lord, you don't need anything now, you just need a bed warmer, do you want to try it? The little fairy laughed. What? Chi-Chi thought of hearing the rumor about the bed warming maid 683 from the storybook. Her face flushed immediately, and she stepped on a puff of heat. Please, please sister, teach me how to do it. Chi-Chi's two little hands tugged at each other, she lowered her head, and her voice was like a mosquito. The little goblin smiled, then lay down in front of Chi-Chi's ear and whispered. Chi-Chi blushed when she heard this. It turns out that serving the Lord requires so many things. Naturally, Suzy doesn't know about all this. The 10,000-meter radius around the world tree has already been separated by him with an opaque barrier. Only your own people can enter. At this time, Suzy has settled the Zerg Queen Alice. In the future, Suzy will provide her with resources to help her forge a new nest. And she only needs to keep giving birth, increase the number of insect soldiers, and provide him with faith every day. No more life and death. This treatment is very good. Alice was very excited after hearing this, and enthusiastically expressed that she must build more soldiers and insects to provide more faith for the Lord. The three newly born heroes are also wandering in the territory. Suzy did not limit their activities. After taking care of the unfinished things before, Suzy began to set his sights on the Endless Continent. 77th. The Endless Continent, Collection Games, Bloodbath of Thousand Miles Demon's Nest. This world created by the joint efforts of the gods is incomparably wonderful. Open the panel, Suzy muttered in his heart, and suddenly several plates appeared in front of Suzy. Lord, Territory, Arrival World Channel Regional Channel, Ranking not yet opened, Faith Main City not yet opened. In addition to the initial 3, there are 5 more functions. The World Channel covers the entire Lords of the Small Heavens and human races, and they can communicate in it. But Suzy found that each person can only post 3 comments per day, and for each additional comment, 1 source crystal will be charged. The regional channel is the small group of descending lords around the big stone desert where Suzy is located. Suzy looked at it, but no one spoke for a while. I don't know if it's because there is no one in the remote area, or because I'm worried about leaking information and being found in the territory. The regional channel is the same as the world channel, and it can also send 3 messages a day, and if there are more, you will be charged. Suzy opens ranking. All of the above show 0. The ranking of Endless Continent will only be opened after the boundary wall is opened. In order to get more contribution points, higher ranking, more rewards. All races will start to invade other worlds without mercy. Then bring the world back, let the world it belongs to swallow, and thus gain the favor of the world. For foreign races, it can speed up their cultivation and gain great luck. For human lords, it is to obtain source crystals and source points. So, for the human race and other races on the Endless Continent, everyone is both friends and enemies. It is all for the upgrading of the world and the evolution of the world. But each other is mouthwatering. Among them is to choose to combine vertical and horizontal to form an alliance. Or go it alone. It's all up to the Lord's personal choice. Then Suzy set his sights on the belief column. Faith. Provided by the people, the richer the territory, the more people there are, the stronger the sense of belonging, and the more power of faith provided. In this way, the doubts in Suzy's heart were solved, because the day was over. He found that faith increased rapidly. Territory. Natural territory. Resident. 147. Power of faith. 30 strands per day. The same number of residents, but the power of faith produced every day is 3 times more. Suzy thoughtfully. This is because he provides a good life for the rabbitmen, they recognize themselves and have a sense of belonging. So the belief provided will increase. So and so. After that, I saw a race that was pleasing to the eye and could be accepted as residents. Rabbit people, fox people, centaurs, elves, cat people, murlocs, etc. There are many primitive races in the Endless Continent. Suzy feels like he is playing a collection game. Right now there is only one bunny man in this game, but there will be many more in the future. The last main city has not been opened yet, but it won't take long. There will be the most lively place. With a hint of interest, Suzy inspected his territory. When a rabbit human tribe saw it, they immediately saluted Suzy. My lord, hello. Suzy waved his hand, signaling them to leave him alone. For these bunny people, Suzy also has plans in mind. In the past, due to lack of manpower, a large number of spiritual fields were abandoned. Now it is possible to let the rabbit people grow some spiritual plants and crops. In this way, not only can it be self-sufficient, but the surplus can also be profitable for Suzy. Boom. Just then, a gunshot sounded in the distance. Suzy's expression changed, and he immediately flew to the city wall. At this moment, on the city wall, the rabbitmen had already arrived. At this moment, their faces were full of horror. Far away, a mushroom cloud curled up in the sky, washing away the afterglow of the setting sun in the sky. Is this the Lord's arms? It's too scary. It turns out that the last Lord was lying to us. The plant department is so powerful, but he actually said that the plant department Lord is the weakest, which is obviously much stronger than him. That's right, hundreds of wolf monsters were killed with one shot, which is too destructive. Great, we met a powerful lord, and we no longer have to worry about monster attacks in the wasteland. The rabbits burst into tears of joy and surprise. After the death of the previous lord, they were attacked by wild wolves in the wasteland every day, and an unknown number of clansmen died in their mouths. If the lord had not come, they might all die here tonight. Thinking of this, they looked at Susie with more respect and love. Susie nodded towards them, then looked outside the city, glancing at the corpses of hundreds of low-level demon wolves that were blown to death. Hand wave. Their corpses dissipated with the wind, turned into source crystals and source points, and were collected by Susie. Susie asked, "Are there a lot of monsters here?" "Many. In the wasteland, there are many monster lairs, and sometimes they will launch a beast tide. Hundreds of thousands of monsters spread in all directions. When the previous lord was around, he experienced a beast tide heavily damaged." An old man of the rabbit race said, "Their bunny people are miserable." As soon as the original lord arrived, he encountered a demon tide, and was later discovered by other lords, who was directly killed and his territory was taken away. They also suffered, which made their already weak murlocs even worse. Susie nodded upon hearing this. The monsters on the wasteland can also be replaced with source crystals and source points, they can't just be wasted like this. Susie thought about it. Called all 4 heroes. The 9-leaf sword grass, the catfish tree, the divine willow, and the parasitic spores are all present. Artillery is not suitable for mobile, but 4 hero units can complete this task. There are many monster lairs in the wasteland, which can help you quickly increase your level. Go and clean up the surrounding area. Susie told the 3 new heroes. The level of monsters here is not high, which is very suitable for these new heroes to improve their level. Wen Yan, the canopies of the catfish tree and the god willow swayed, and the parasitic spores jumped onto the branches of the god willow. "My lord, let me go with them." At this time, Chi-Chi and the little goblin who heard the movement also came over. Seeing that Susie was going to send out 3 heroes who were only level 1, Chi-Chi was a little worried. After all, there might be tens of thousands of monsters in a single monster lair in the wasteland, so how can a newborn hero deal with them? At that time, she can still lead them to escape. Although their rabbitmen are not good at attacking, their speed is also top-notch among the orcs. Qian Hao. "I'm with my sister." The little goblin also volunteered to speak. "Fine." Susie didn't stop him. "My lord, it's going to be night soon. The wasteland is very dangerous, why don't we go tomorrow?" At this time, the old man of the human race next to him couldn't help but suggested worriedly. Beep. When Pumashu heard that someone doubted him, the 2 black eyes growing on the trunk suddenly widened. The frightened old man couldn't help but take a few steps back. "It's okay, they sell calendars are not ordinary." Susie didn't explain too much, and then spoke to Xiaoju alone. "Xiaoju, go and draw a map of the vicinity, and if you encounter other lords' territories, mark them. It will be useful in the future." "Yes, my lord." Xiaoju shook a leaf, then flew to the gradually dark wasteland, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The 3 heroes also quickly disappeared into the night with Chi-Chi and the goblin. It's better to have no one on the side of the couch. Susie looked at the night and muttered to himself. Chapter 79. Chi-Chi, who was stunned, the evil spirit of the catfish tree. Get things done. Susie turned around the territory again. Now all the rabbit people have moved into the newly built new home, so they don't have to worry about the wind and rain anymore. Everyone also ate the food from Fan Lu, but it was only the lowest level. But even so, it also makes them feel that they have eaten a peerless delicacy. From this we can see how miserable their lives were before the arrival of Susie. It can be said that it completely changed their lives. But Susie doesn't care. Dozens of bunnymen, how much can you eat? When the spiritual field is planted, it will be a profitable business again. Looked around. Nothing to do today. I don't know when the world battlefield will open, but it will be soon, and I don't think it will take long. Now may be the last piece before the war. Take a bath in watching pool. Then Susie went back to the Lord's mansion to sleep. Cleaning up a radius of thousands of miles, they probably won't be back until tomorrow. Naturally, Susie didn't have to wait for them. At the same time, not far from the territory, Chi-Chi, the goblin and the three heroes came to a monster lair. Before approaching, a large piece of purple magic scorpion 1 to 2 meters long sprang out from the 147 lair. These demon scorpions are protected by purple armor from top to bottom, and their 2 large claws are covered with terrifying sawtooth. Behind it is a tail that is as long as the height, and the sleepy tail is a sharp barb. At this time, they were surrounded by scorpions one by one. Chi-Chi's face turned pale in an instant, and her calves were trembling uncomfortably. She didn't expect to just come out. Then I encountered one of the overlord monster races on the wasteland, the poisonous scorpions. The number of these poisonous scorpions exceeded 100,000. Even those demon wolves who harassed them did not dare to provoke the demon scorpions. Even more frightening is that, behind these scorpions, with a giant 6th order magic scorpion, even ordinary 7th order monsters dare not compete with it. Gudong. Chi-Chi was so frightened that an urge to urinate appeared in her body, but she suppressed it, and the little goblin asked with a slightly crying voice. Sister Fairy, can you contact the Lord? We have encountered the demon scorpions. The scorpions are too numerous and powerful, and only a few of us can't defeat them. If you can contact the Lord, can you ask him to support us? The little goblin couldn't help but smile when she saw Chi-Chi's frightened rabbit's ears drooping. I didn't expect Chi-Chi to be so timid. Don't be afraid, the master doesn't need to deal with these little things himself. In this regard, the goblin is full of information, although he does not know the abilities of these 3 new heroes. But to be released confidently by Suzy, naturally it can't be bad. The goblin believed in Suzy's judgment. Little thing. Chi-Chi looked at even the smallest demon scorpion, which was 2 or 3 times her size, and hid behind the little goblin in fear. Dawn, seeing that Chi-Chi was frightened into this state, the face of the Pumashu floating on the trunk showed a sneer. Then they looked at the poisonous scorpions that surrounded them layer by layer. A pair of dark eyes instantly turned cold. Shake gently. Countless dandelions emitting faint fluorescence in the night light, falling from its snow-white crown. Fly to a poisonous scorpion. These poisonous scorpions naturally saw these dandelions. But it didn't matter. One by one greedily looked at the few people surrounded by them. Unexpectedly, a prey came to the door by itself. But since you're here, there's no need to leave. When the blossoming dandelions exuding holy fluorescence fell on the thunder scorpions one by one. She is ill. Pumashu wantonly laughed wildly, full of AGBC crazy meaning. Just then, thousands of poisonous scorpions stained by dandelions began to notice something was wrong. First, they found that no matter how much they shook their bodies, they couldn't get rid of the dandelion. That's not counting. They found that where the dandelion was stained, the skin began to collapse, and the hard armor began to melt. The flesh and blood were being sucked by the dandelion. The poisonous scorpions were sucked dry of everything in just a second or two. Turned into powder, the cool night wind blows, drifting in the desert. The poisonous scorpions that formed the encirclement circle immediately revealed large gaps. At the same time, Pumashu's body began to exude a soaring aura and light, which drove several people away from her. When the light fades, the catfish tree has grown in size several times. On the crown of the tree, the white round crown composed of countless dandelions. At this time, it becomes bigger and denser. 3rd order. Feeling the prestige of the Pumashu, the little goblin spoke softly. Calm in the eyes. I have seen Xiaoju's evolution before, but this time it is just ordinary. But for Chi-Chi, she had never seen such a terrifying scene. For a moment, thousands of magic scorpions were wiped out. The scorpions one by one seemed to be taken away by the devil. In just a second or two, turned into ashes. There is no resistance at all. Horrible. Too terrifying. As if I noticed something. The 3rd level Pumashu smiled at Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi Mei's eyes widened, as if she saw some horrible scene. She passed out from fright as soon as she stepped on her legs. Too bad. Pumashu laughed wildly. The laughter was terrifying and eerie. It is too timid. The little goblin glared at her angrily, and had no choice but to hold Chi-Chi in her arms. Fix it quickly, we still have a lot to clean up. The goblin said to them. She can be regarded as the big sister among all the heroes, and even the big nanny of the team in the future. No one would want to offend her. Wen Yan. The canopy of the catfish tree trembled slightly again. Countless dandelions are like the most beautiful flowers, emitting fluorescence, falling on every poisonous scorpion. Almost in the blink of an eye. All the poisonous scorpions shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally turned into dust. Hi, Mashu burped, with a satisfied expression on his face. Chapter 80. Holy God Willow, Parasitic Spores, Goblins Who Committed Suicide. Chi-Chi didn't know when she woke up. I just feel like I am in a warm embrace, and there is a howling wind in my ears. Woke up. A gentle voice rang beside my ear. Chi-Chi opened her eyes and saw the little goblin's delicate cheeks. Wen Yan. Chi-Chi blushed. She was so frightened that she fainted, it was so embarrassing. But at that time, she only felt that the smile of Mashu was really terrifying. Sister, where are we going now? Chi-Chi looked around. By the bright stars in the sky. Chi-Chi saw that she was being hugged by the goblin big sister, and she was following behind the Lord's three heroes. The devil tree that frightened her faint. It seems to have grown bigger again. At this time, the height is more than 20 meters, and the white dandelion on the canopy in the middle emits light fluorescence in the dark night. What a beautiful thing it is. But Chi-Chi, who had seen those miserable scenes of the demon scorpion, felt a chill down her back. This is definitely a very scary magic tree. She will stay away from him in the future. The other two heroes of Lord look normal. Especially Shenliu. The willow branches exude emerald greenery, which is full of vitality. This makes her like the bunny people very much. The parasitic spores on the branches of the willow are also very cute. She is so small that she can hold it with one hand and looks soft. It is much stronger than the terrible catfish tree. Chi-Chi thought so in her heart. Arrived. The goblin smiled slightly, and they stopped over a camp. Chi-Chi looked down, and her face, which had just recovered its color, turned white again. I saw one by one below, huge and terrifying ogres, boiling water in a pot, and there were prey slaughtered by them next to them. Ogres. Is this an ogre camp? Chi-Chi was about to cry from fright, holding the little goblin tightly with her little hands, not daring to let go. Didn't they just come out of the scorpion's nest? How come I met such a terrifying group of ogres again? She has heard. Fried orc heads are a favorite of these ogres, and fried rabbit heads are their favorite. Don't worry, look. Subsequently, Chi-Chi then saw an unforgettable scene in this life. I saw that every green branch and leaf of the willow shone with green fluorescence. Under the night, she seemed to be transformed into the purest and most holy god in the world. Shining. There are vicious ogres below, two-headed ogres, ogre lords. He gradually put down the weapons and food in his hands. With devout expressions on their faces, they all knelt down to them. The willows descend slowly. In front of him. A huge vortex appeared. All the ogres lined up into the vortex in an orderly manner, without any confusion. Hoo-hoo. Chi-Chi quickly shook her head. She almost wanted to go in with those ogres just now. This method of confusing the mind is too terrifying. In a short period of time, an ogre camp was cleared. She was wrong. Shenliu is not holy at all, she is a demagogic devil. Walk. Without stopping at all, they set off again. It seems that this process has already been operated countless times by them. Soon, they came to a goblin camp. These green-skinned monsters are not strong. But there are too many of them. Look up. Chi-Chi felt the boundless flames, and there were goblins everywhere. So many goblins. Even if it is to kill, it may take one night to kill. At this time, 0. Seeking flowers. The parasitic spores that had been staying on the back of the willow moved. Under Chi-Chi's gaze, her petite body flew over the goblin camp quickly. Then sprinkle fluorescent particles flying like dust. What is this doing? Chi-Chi looked at the goblin below. They did not eat flesh and blood like the dandelions released by the magic catfish tree. It also didn't exude divine light like the divine willow, attracting goblins to worship. You will know later, don't be afraid. The little goblin narrowed her eyes and smiled mysteriously at Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi suddenly felt that elder sister fairy's smile was terrifying. The sixth sense from the rabbit makes her feel that something bad will happen later. Soon, as if the seeds had been sown, the parasitic spores flew back to the branches of the willow. Then he turned around and yelled, "Yee-ya yee-ya," to Chi-Chi twice. Chi-Chi thought she was greeting her, and waved to her enthusiastically, showing her kindness. She suddenly felt, this parasitic spore is not as evil as the other two. But the next second, the hand she was still waving stiffly froze in midair. The two red rabbit eyes widened in an instant, full of panic. Seems to have seen something extremely terrifying. I saw the hundreds of thousands of goblins camped nearby. One by one, they walked out of the camp and stood in the open space. Subsequently, one by one, they screwed their heads off. Hundreds of thousands of goblins all wrung their heads off, and then fell into a pool of blood. The strong smell of blood filled the audience. Plop! The little goblin felt something pressing on her chest and looked down. The corners of the mouth were slightly raised, revealing a smile. Because Chi-Chi fainted again. Knife. Because Chi-Chi fainted again. Knife. Because